This week on NWP, game over? Damn right I'm over.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control and if you can take it. All about your death.
Hello everyone and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 167. We cover everything while bearing it all. I am Julian and I'm joined as always by Justin.
This is the State of the Generation episode where every year Abraham Video Games comes and gives his address. And he says 40 and several points ago, I had a dream that one day video games would be a thing.
Yes.
That's it.
That's the exact, yes.
Yeah.
Every year.
Every year. He rises from the dead and
Yes.
says it. It's great.
I actually thought you were going to call me out for using that very obvious Triple H t-shirt reference.
Oh, no.
Which I always loved that shirt because I always thought it was really weird that an official WWE shirt would use like the smart mark language like over. And I can only imagine the Triple H called for that because like no one else would get away with. I mean, it's like you wouldn't put heel or face on a t-shirt from WWE. It's so weird.
Yeah, only Triple H and like D-Generation X guys can get away with that. They were the ones that were constantly doing that, like break the fourth wall.
Oh, right, because the DX song is actually like super like inside baseball.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, like hey, Dunn, keep your finger off the switch. Like most people don't know what that means.
There's like the Shawn Michaels like Sunny Days comments, and like there's a ton of like stuff where he was like doing the whole like smart mark thing where if you followed the Dave Meltzer stuff. Anyway,
you're right. We're already like in the weeds.
Yeah, exactly.
As Justin stated, this is our annual State of the Generation episode, and the reason why I said game over is because generation over for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think what we'll do for State of the Generation next year is we'll actually do a real in-depth look. Well, not an in-depth look, but I think what we'll do are like top 5 games of the generation, since by that point the new consoles will be out and we will officially be in the 9th console generation. So it's a good time to look back.
I have a counter proposal.
Okay.
I say we go over our top 5 games and then we go over our top 5 favorite things or something. And then and while we're doing that, top 5 memories. And while we're doing that, we play, oh God, I forgot her name, but we'll play the, I will remember you.
No, but that's the designated host is leaving the show song. Like we use that for Rob, we use that for Angelo.
Well, I mean, we'll play another, God, what's her name? Melissa Etheridge? No, that's not right. I can't remember.
We'll figure it out. There's plenty of time.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this is our last time to really talk about the state of this generation, as it's still the current generation. And Justin, this is your first State of the Generation podcast.
It is.
A lot of firsts for you since you started earlier in the year. And so, we've got some talking points we want to do. We had Ryan Scott on last year and he did this thing where he actually brought like some of the big news stories of the year and we talked about them, which I really loved. So I think we're going to do that again.
Sounds good.
But before we get into that, like Justin, since you've never done one of these before, like how do you feel about this generation, like kind of overall and especially like this year?
A lot of people have said like this hasn't been that great of a year in games, or for the most part, like 2018's kind of been a down year because basically we're just waiting for the next gen, and I haven't really felt that way. Like personally, I thought there was a lot of really cool stuff this year that I really enjoyed, but I mean, there wasn't anything big like AAA game where like it was like holy shit, this is mind blowing.
Right.
That I played. There wasn't like like a God of War. I didn't play God of War. I don't care about it. But like you know what I mean. Like there wasn't like that or Red Dead or anything like that this year. So like people would just go, bad year in video games. But I thought it was pretty fine, and like yeah, we're winding down this generation. But I don't know. I think this generation probably could have gone like another year. I don't know. like we're just now starting to figure it out a little bit. Like, I mean, Control like is clearly doing some really cool physics stuff. Like, but then again, at the same time, Control has like some parts where like that game you can tell can barely the current gen console can barely contain it because boy, that game stutters like a motherfucker on an Xbox One X.
Control was the first game where I was finally like, okay, maybe these consoles have come to their end.
I definitely noticed it. Yeah, I was like, ooh, yeah, this is not. Sometimes this isn't that great. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, this generation's okay. This year has been pretty fine. There hasn't been like too many like egregiously bad news stories, but I mean, I don't know. There's always something.
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think, because we'll definitely talk more about the year in games, when we come back from hiatus, because we'll be talking about our games of the year. But, last year I had said that 2018 was the year of games that people lost their minds over that Julian thought were good. This year, I think it's just been a lot of really solid games, but more games this year that have kept me up at night playing, which is kind of weird. It's like, they're not necessarily like the greatest games or anything like that, but at the same time, can't put them down. And that's usually my mark of something special to Julian is like, if I'm playing it into the wee hours and then I go to work the next day bleary-eyed, but still just thinking about that game, that's something.
Yeah, there's been a lot of, I'll put it like, there's been a lot of Justin Ham as Justin Ham games this year.
Yes.
Like not the mainstream people and like, your pro gamers. I'm not, I shouldn't use that term, but, like your people who like, your big AAA games and stuff like that aren't gonna like have much to like go on from this year. But like, for me, there was like stuff like I loved like Fire Emblem, and the first to tell you it's not the greatest game in the world, but it's Justin Ham crack in a nutshell.
Right.
There's like little indie games like Katana Zero. There was Bloodstained. Those two games I'm currently debating. There's a huge debate in my brain going on between those two games right now. There's Disco Elysium, which was like crazy to me, and I love that game. And it's like, that's like you said, games that keep you up at night. I still to right now am thinking about that game because of how different it was. And like, it's not going to be like your big AAA games, but man, there was some really cool stuff this year. And then there's like stuff that's like totally different, like Sayonara Wild Hearts, that game. I loved that game, and like, it's so new and different, but like your mainstream audience isn't going to be into that, and I totally get it. But like, I don't know, man. Like I said, a lot of Justin Ham games this year, and stuff that I got super addicted to. Hell, Pokemon, I got addicted to fucking Pokemon this year, and that was a new thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for me, it's this generation, like looking back now, and also it's so crazy to think that like, this podcast has now survived through an entire console generation, because I remember when we did our game of the 7th generation like podcast, because we were waiting, because the PS4 had come out. So that's just really weird to think about. But it's weird because like, you remember, okay, so like the 360 generation, it was like Gears of War came out and it was like, okay, it's on. And then like from that point on, it was just like this just steamroll of like innovations and like big games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I really feel that like that there was a lot of people saying like, well, they haven't really hit that Gears of War moment yet this generation. Like we're still waiting for that thing. And I felt like we never really, don't get me wrong, there were some fantastic games that came out this generation, but I still feel that this generation is kind of ramping up in a really weird way. And so I do agree with you. I think that this generation, I think I could easily go another year, maybe more, without new consoles coming out. Although, like we said, Control definitely is like butting up against what the hardware can do. And I actually have serious doubts that Ghost of Tsushima is actually a PlayStation 4 game. When I saw that at E3, I was like, that doesn't look like what a PS4 do.
Right. You could be very right. It's either that or it's very late lifespan PlayStation 4.
Like if that gets pushed to PS5, I will not be surprised at all.
I won't be surprised either. Yeah, I could easily see that being a launch title for PlayStation 5.
Yeah,
and it'd be a nice one too because I would want to play it. That's when I as soon as I laid eyes on it, I was like, I want to play that.
Yeah,
it looks awesome.
Yeah, that is a Julian game.
Oh, that's I loved how that looked. Everything about it screamed, I need to play that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's like you said with we haven't really hit that moment, but maybe, I don't know. There has been like a couple games. I mean, Witcher 3 was like a big one. I mean, Assassin's Creed Odyssey was like obviously trying to copy that game, and it did an okay job, but it sure as hell wasn't The Witcher 3, and a lot of people tried to take from that game and iterate on it, but like we never hit that point where like, okay, everything's Witcher 3 now. You know,
right?
It never hit that.
And I think Witcher 3 might have been that moment, but I feel, and I wasn't paying close attention to it when it came out, but I feel that was such a PC-centric game that also happened to be on console. That kind of took that away from the console generation as far as this being the moment that this generation really like caught on fire.
The only other one I can think of then is Red Dead 2 was a big one for a lot of people. I mean, I didn't really get into it, but like obviously, John Golson was on here and he was really high on it, and a lot of other people are too. And to the point where I'm like, I really should revisit that game.
I bought it on Black Friday.
I seen you did that. That's okay, man. I bought a couple like $10 games on Black Friday too. Like I bought.
Well, this was $30, but it's a Rockstar game, so that's as cheap as it's going to get.
That's as cheap as it's going to get, probably. Yeah. I mean, I think I bought God of War because it was $10. I was like, why not? And I think the other one was Horizon because I never got around to playing Horizon. So,
you definitely need to play Horizon before we get to our game of before we get to this podcast next year, because the more I think about it, the more I think that might be one of my top 5 games of this generation. Even though it wasn't my game of the year that it came out, it's like the more I think about it, and I still think about it today, and I'm like,
good, then.
Man. That game, and again, that is like, we'll talk about it later when we talk about what we're looking for next gen. But spoiler alert: Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is like my number 1 most anticipated game of the next generation.
Ah, there you go.
With a bullet. Full stop.
Of the next generation, man, I can't even look that far ahead right now.
Well, that's what this podcast is about.
I know there's so much stuff still coming out for this generation next year. Like, goddamn, man.
There is, and we'll definitely get to that. But let's go ahead and roll on into some of this new stuff. The first thing I wanted to hit up was that, wow, I just cannot believe how, Anthem celebrated its 3-year anniversary this year as being a game. And by that, I mean that it came out in February of 2019.
It feels like it's been out forever, doesn't it?
Well, that and this year, Justin, just feels so interminably long. Maybe it's because I've been paying closer and closer attention to the news, but it feels like everything happens very quickly, but at the same time, everything is like in this weird, like, time dilation mode, and I can't take it. But yeah, Anthem came out this year, and it feels so far away. Wow.
Well, I mean, it came out. It was not good.
It's a game. Well, so I haven't played this game yet, and I really want to. Simply because,
are you sure about that?
Well, remember, I've been wanting an Iron Man game forever, and this seems like as close as I'm going to get. Other than that Iron Man VR game for PS4, which who knows when that's coming.
There's also that Avengers game coming out too.
But you don't get to just play as Iron Man.
I think you can just play as Iron Man. I mean, you can be Iron Man.
You can be Iron Man, but also, did you ever actually go back and look at some of the actual released gameplay footage of it?
Yeah, a little bit.
That game looks so boring and by the numbers.
Yeah, I know it really does.
Like,
I'm cheekily saying that.
No, I know. But we never really talked about it on the show, and it's like, no, like, as big a fan of like comics and the MCU as I am.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing it at E3 and being like, this looks rough.
Yeah.
This doesn't look that great. This announcement went down like a wet fart, and And then, yeah, they showed gameplay footage of it, and I was like, this looks like an online MMO thing that this is not what people want right now. People wanted a big, like, story-based MCU Avengers game, and they're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
Now, people are gonna be pissed. Well, maybe not. I don't know. It could take, we could be totally wrong, and it comes out, and it's amazing.
Hey, I'd like to be wrong.
It still isn't out yet, so.
I actually completely forgot about the game until you just brought it up, to be perfectly honest.
That's what I do.
No, and the only reason I really bring Anthem up as far as like one of the stories for the year is simply because is this the actual, I mean, they're supposed to be releasing another Dragon Age, and they've announced that they're working on another Mass Effect, but is this actually the nail in the coffin that puts BioWare away? Because even... my thing is that there are so few people left at BioWare that you associate with BioWare games at this point that, you know, the people who are going to be working on Dragon Age or the next Mass Effect, have they ever even worked on the series before? Like, what is BioWare as a developer anymore? You know?
Well, they're kind of a shell of them for their former selves.
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty obvious, like, just from the story of this game. So, like, for those who aren't, like, fully aware of what happened, and I assume a lot of people follow video games closely who listen to our podcast, but you never know, so I'll tell it again, I guess. Basically, what happened is, BioWare put out this thing. It was called, what was it? Project Dylan, which is the most pretentious bullshit ever. It's going to be the Bob Dylan of video games. And yeah, it sure was the Bob Dylan of video games, as in Bob Dylan is very terrible.
I was going to say incomprehensible and...
yeah, and not great. But anyway, so they started making this thing. They kept switching directions on it. There's a big write-up by one Jason Schreier on this game where he did a lot of, like, cool investigative journalism on it, and if you haven't read that article, I highly suggest you do. It is super interesting and goes into a lot of problems with the industry as a whole. But this one, basically, like, yeah, they just didn't know what they wanted to do, and they kept switching it around, and eventually they started relying on this thing that they were calling BioWare Magic to make it all right, and they implemented Frostbite engine because that was an EA thing. Everything has to be on Frostbite engine because that we're going to save some money by going to this, and it's clearly better because our biggest selling game uses it, and that's Battlefield. Yeah, Battlefield it did the Frostbite engine. So what could go wrong, right?
Let's forget what it did to Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, a lot can go wrong because Frostbite's really hard to program for if you don't know what to do on it. And so they have to call people from the Battlefield studio to come in and, hey, how do I do this? Oh, well, we don't know. We know how to do it, but we can't get there now. We have to help FIFA because FIFA's coming out this year. It's a whole that article goes into so much crazy detail. There's so much stuff in there that I was like, holy shit, like, no wonder that game came out and was a train wreck. At one point, like the flying thing you talked about, Julian, wasn't even in the game. That was implemented. Wow. That was implemented later, because what happened was they released a demo to come out, and basically, apparently there's this thing. I think it's an EA thing. They released demos to come out, and around Christmas, so everybody can take something home during their Christmas break. They play these like demos for upcoming games, and you could basically show them off.
Like to show the family and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's pretty smart.
It's neat.
Yeah.
So apparently the head of EA played the Anthem demo, the early Anthem demo, and said, "Hey, this is complete shit, and we're going to kill your project if you don't fix it." And so basically somehow they got word, or they figured out that he was really into this flying mechanic thing. And that's the demo. The very first time they showed off Anthem, that little like snippet of them flying off the cliff and doing all that stuff, and with the like fake internet chatter, which I hate and hope that goes away forever. God, I fucking hate that. Anyway, but that was what he got shown. He was like, yes, this is what I want. I want this cool flying game and action RPG type thing. This is what I want from you guys. So that's what became Anthem.
Yeah.
It wasn't in their original plans. Like I said, they switched it up so much that this game didn't have any direction. They stopped, and then they were like, okay, well, we're a looter shooter now. And basically what happened is they're like, well, people inside were like, well, hey, if we're this genre, we should be doing this. This is what Destiny does, and this is what the other games of this genre do. We should be taking these really good elements and putting them in our game because, I mean, obviously that's what works. That's what you do. If you're gonna copy a genre, at least do it right.
Yeah, I mean, this industry is built by standing on the shoulders of the greats that have come before you. And I don't say that as a negative. Like, that's the way that video games have grown.
Yeah, guess what? They didn't fucking do that. They said, no, this is not Destiny. You do not mention Destiny. You do not mention these other games. This is Anthem. We are better than them. You will do this other thing. And so they didn't take any feedback on this. So that's why it came out and everybody was like, what the fuck are you trying to do here?
Yeah.
Like, this is, it was.
Well, and then also, for it being a loot-based shooter, how the fuck do you not have the armor be like pieces that drop as like the loot? Like, all of that is just cosmetic stuff. And like Diablo 3 came out in 2011, guys.
and on top of all that, it's a BioWare game. The last thing people really want from BioWare is like this like big MMO type thing. I mean, I'm not saying everybody doesn't want that. I'm sure there's like a few people that really wanted this game to come out and be good.
I mean, if there was a Mass Effect MMO, I kind of would probably be down for that.
I mean, and you're entitled to your dream, Julian. Live your best life, bud. But like most people want like, you know, story based, like, you know, making decisions, you know, cool, good dialogue, that sort of thing. The thing you come to expect from BioWare, and none of that's in this game. It's just a real blank. And I can't remember exactly, but I keep thinking there's entire parts of the game, storyline-wise, that they had to cut out because at some point they were just like, we just need to get this out the door and we have to cut this entire part. And like certain parts don't add up in the story. I'm not completely aware because I never played through that shit. But like, yeah, it's a mess of a game. It's just a fucking mess. And like I said, if you're really interested in the nitty gritty, I highly recommend going and reading that article. It's super interesting, especially the BioWare magic part where it was like, oh, don't worry, the game will come together. We'll just give it the old BioWare magic and aka crunch time to get this thing out the door, and it'll be great. Don't worry about it.
Well, and I also think that some of that BioWare magic was because you had the doctors and Casey Hudson and David Gator kind of like finessing you know, it's like saying, hey guys, we can do this. Here's how we're gonna like pull through and do this thing. It's like when you don't have all of the people that make up like the heart of BioWare anymore, then there is no BioWare magic, you know? Like,
well, a lot of the reason that a lot of the other people that were there thought that, okay, yeah, maybe you're right, is because that's how they did Inquisition as well.
Right.
Inquisition was kind of the same type of case. And, you know, Inquisition, you know, maybe not the best game, maybe not the worst game, kind of middle of the road in my opinion. But like, that's how they did that game. Like it was, you know, kind of a jumbled mess. And then at the end, BioWare magic, and it came together. I mean, obviously it didn't work for their last two because God knows Andromeda was a piece of trash too. So
yeah. And you know, like I said, like I wouldn't mind trying Anthem. Like if it goes on Game Pass, which isn't likely because it's an EA game, or if it's like on sale for like $10, I'd give it a go. But really, and the main reason I brought it up for this year is that I am fearful for one of my favorite developers. And here's the thing is that I don't necessarily want or need another Mass Effect and another Dragon Age. I mean, eventually I want those, but I want and need the next RPG from BioWare that is of that caliber, but something new. Or
we just want something good.
Or hey, maybe Jade Empire too.
I was just gonna say Jade Empire. Stop reading my mind. Yeah, oh man, Jade Empire would be awesome. God, I used to love that game. But yeah, we just want a good BioWare game, and like I'm in this spot right now with BioWare where I'm wait and see.
Yes,
because it could be they release Dragon Age and that game is awesome, and it's like, hey, they're back.
Right.
Cool. I'll be super happy about it. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. I think
I will wait for reviews and I will watch some videos
it's definitely not a thing I'm going to probably buy, like, you know, sight unseen or anything like that. I mean, it may be, maybe they'll hype me up for it and show me some stuff that I really like, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And like you said, as far as that company being dead, who knows? And as far as Anthem goes, apparently they're gonna rejigger that the whole thing. They're gonna give that thing a huge overhaul. That's been reported.
Yeah. Which, hey, I mean, look, there is plenty of cases of that working out. You know, like Rainbow Six Siege was that way, and it's super successful now. Final Fantasy 14 was god awful. And they completely rebuilt that game from the ground up. Yeah. They didn't use anything from that first game.
I mean, it could work. It could work. I mean, it could, but I don't know, man, because like, I don't know, that to me, that game has just such a bad reputation now that I don't know if it can pry its way out. See, Final Fantasy, when that happens, you go, okay, well, we need to overhaul it. It's a piece of trash, but if we overhaul it, it's a Final Fantasy game. It still has that name attached to it.
True.
So, like, you can kind of get off on that. This is a new IP that already has a really bad reputation, and Rainbow Six is the same way. It's still a Rainbow Six game. You still can fall back on that. And people go, hey, Rainbow Six is good again. They'll go, oh, cool, I like Rainbow Six. And like even people that don't know that it was trash to begin with are like, oh, cool, a Rainbow Six game. I have Rainbow Six Siege for free because like it came with my Xbox. So, and I've never played it. It's still in the wrapper. I never will play it. But like Anthem has a really bad reputation, and people go, unless that overhaul, and it could be huge, they could overhaul the entire thing and it's awesome, and they have to fix the loot system, which was fundamentally broken, and that's hilarious. People found out that the starter gun was the most powerful gun because somehow the leveling system like adjusted to whatever your stats on the level was, or so. I don't remember how it worked, but like the starting gun was the most powerful weapon you could use on the end of the game.
Someone didn't carry a 2 somewhere, and it really fucked up
the entire way they did all the loot was completely fundamentally broken.
Yeah.
And then when people pointed it out, they went, oh shit. That was basically their response. So yeah, we'll see. Like I wish him the best. I hope it works. It's not a thing I'm interested in, but like, God bless, man. Like, Godspeed.
Well, Justin, why I know you had a couple things that you wanted to hit. Why don't you bring up one of yours?
Sure. I guess I can do that. I guess I'll start with like the Epic Game Store was a thing that kind of took off this year. I can't remember if that came out last year or this year. But it's sure been a point of contention this year. That's for sure.
It has, and I don't understand it.
Well, I'm here to sort of explain it. So basically the story with this thing is okay, PC gamers, and I'm a newer PC gamer. So this is I'm in the dark here. I actually looked up a thing on like, why do people hate this? Because I want to know. So I looked it up just because I wanted to double check. And when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Everything here makes absolute sense. And basically what it is PC gamers are not used to the like almost console exclusive, if you will. Now, I know basically what everybody out there is thinking, Justin, this isn't a console exclusive. If you have a PC, you just download a free launcher. It's not a big deal. Here's why it's sort of a big deal. So basically what ends up happening is Steam is very, very well established, and Steam's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody that it's a perfect place to play games and everything's fine with it. It has some problems. It has a lot of problems. But that being said, it's very well established. People have a lot of friends on there. They have entire lists of games, thousands of dollars in libraries and stuff like that on there. That's where people are comfortable playing games at. And like that friends list thing that I just mentioned is a big deal because let's say the Epic Game Store comes out and has a big online shooter. Well, okay, cool. But now I have to go redo my entire friends list to find all these people over here. So what I would compare it to is like this. You ever move to a new city? You know how much that sucks to move all your shit to this other place and unpack all that shit and then remake all you have to reestablish new friends and do all this stuff. That's basically kind of the gist. It's like, yeah, I have all my stuff here. I would like to just stay here. I don't want to move all my stuff to this other place. So that's kind of where the backlash originates on the Epic Game Store a little bit.
Okay, yeah. So this is the GoldenEye effect where GoldenEye came out for N64. I rented it. I played it. I thought it was okay, and I didn't think about it again. And then never understood why, one, it was like almost a year later, like the hottest game at Christmas, and then also why people were just like so over the moon for it. And then it's like, oh, right, because you had friends that would come over and play it with you, where I didn't. And so for me, it's like, okay, yeah, I guess because I was like, well, I guess the friends list thing maybe, but like to me, it's like, like EA has their own launcher, Ubisoft has their own launcher, and
yes. Here's the thing, I'm glad you brought that up. Here's the thing about that. So EA has their own launcher, Bethesda has their own launcher, a couple other companies have their own launcher. Yeah. But the thing about that is Epic isn't just putting Epic's games on their store. It's not just Epic games. They're taking other games that from like third-party companies like Vampire the Masquerade, their Outer Worlds is on there. People, I mean, now eventually some of those are coming to Steam, but like I've heard, and it's a long-running joke that, it's such a shame that the Outer Worlds isn't coming out on PC for another year because it's coming out on Epic Game Store. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and that's a thing.
But I guess I'm of the mind that like, because the thing is, people don't remember is that PC gamers hated Steam when it came out. Like they loathed it. It was like one of the worst things that had happened to PC gaming at the time. I'm of the mind that like competition is good, and
it is.
Like hopefully, and especially from what I understand, like this has been good for game developers as far as that.
Oh, it's been very good for game developers. So now Epic Game Store gives a really good split on the revenue for game developers. And so that's one of the main reasons why a lot of developers are going over there. Now, a big issue with the Epic Game Store has been Kickstarter stuff. So, hey, I'm making this Kickstarter game. You gave me all this money and I said, okay, hey, that sounds awesome. I'll give you all this money. I want the game on Steam. Cool. And then, a couple months later we go, hey, we're an Epic Game Store thing now, or like, right before the game comes out, which it was the case with Metro Exodus, which wasn't a Kickstarter game, but, whatever.
Right. Like Epic needs to do the right thing and say, hey, if you had a Kickstarter before we made this deal with you, then you can I guess it's more of a Steam thing. They're not going to let them because there should be a way to where they can honor those Steam keys for the people who were promised Steam keys. I
think there's been like one game that did, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Oh, I'd have to look that one up. Don't quote me on that one. But yeah. And yeah, the Kickstarter thing's been a mess. Like I said, if you promise that, hey, this game's coming out on Steam, and people go, cool, I want it on Steam, and then all of a sudden you go, no, we're going to put it out on the Epic Game Store, people are going to be a little pissed about it. I mean, Shenmue was a prime example of that. Shenmue was a big one, and not that I give a shit about Shenmue because that game looks real bad and funny, but still, it was a big deal to some people that, hey, this game isn't coming out on Steam now. What the fuck? We gave you all this money. And the fact that they didn't give out refunds. Now, here's the thing about the Kickstarter thing, and I want to defend the developers that take that deal. Because that deal for a smaller developer is too good to pass up.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't pass that deal up. From what I am to understand about that deal, to take that deal basically means if that game sells 0 copies, I still pay my entire staff and make profit. Of course, I'm taking that deal.
Yeah.
Like, and you can't you can't get mad at those developers for doing that. I mean, I understand the outrage of, hey, you promised us this thing. What the fuck? I get it.
But if it's the difference between a game coming out and a game like dying on the vine. Like
or an entire developer dying on the vine. Yeah. Some of these indie companies put their entire like livelihoods on the fucking line to make these games, and for them to not take a deal that's going to like, hey, this guarantees that we stay and get to make another game. We're taking that deal. Yeah. Like, I'd take that deal too. And I have the Epic Game Store on my computer right now, and it's fine. I haven't noticed anything bad. I know there was like a weird conspiracy theory that there's like some sort of spyware. Somebody found some sort of thing on there. The storefront's not the greatest. But there's not very much on it either.
Yeah. I mean, I really feel it is a case of growing pains. Again, Steam was barely usable when it first came out.
Yeah, they definitely need a lot of work, I think, and they have the money, which is kind of a shame. They really need to put more into that storefront. They have the means, they have the money, they really should do it. And it's not even the storefront, like they don't even have a shopping cart on there, which is a huge problem. There was an example of a guy from one of the podcasts I listened to. They had a big sale on Epic, which they got in a lot of trouble for, actually, because they were giving away shit that for almost nothing and didn't tell the developers they were doing it. But basically this guy was like, well, I'm taking advantage of this. I'm buying, Vampire the Masquerade for like $30 or whatever. So, and that game's not even out yet. And, you pre-order it, they have to honor it or whatever. And so basically he just started buying all these games on sale on the Epic store, and he was buying them one by one. And at some point, because he was buying them one by one because they didn't have a shopping cart, his card got flagged for being fraudulent, had to go through a whole thing because,
Right.
that's how they track that stuff. And then and they kept going back and forth with him. And he's like, this is me. I'm making these purchases. You gave me this huge sale. I'm going to take advantage of it. Why can't I buy all these games at once?
Yeah.
So stuff like that's a problem.
Not having a shopping cart is like bonkers to me, because like even like anyone who like puts up like their own website with like GoDaddy or something like that can like put together a shopping cart for a store.
It's not, it doesn't seem like a hard thing to do. And like, but they're doing some really cool things too. Like, I think it was about 2 months ago, I just got like a little notification popped up on my PC. It was like, hey, you can get Celestin Inside for free. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll take them. And I was like, I got Celestin Inside for free, and just have them sitting on my computer now. I can get them whenever the hell I want.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Like, so they're doing like console stuff, which is neat. And Steam, I don't get free games with. So, like it's they got to put a little. I think if they put more work in that store, people are going to be less mad. I think it's maybe just an outrage thing of this year, maybe. And I think the Kickstarter thing was a learning experience where developers are now going to not guarantee, like, hey, we're not going to tell you that this thing's going to come out on Steam until like the very last thing. It's coming out on PC. We don't know where.
Yeah. I mean,
just bear with us.
And I think that goes to like what a monopoly Steam has had so long, where Steam was synonymous with PC.
Yes.
So, and it's
absolutely.
So yeah. And I don't think that is a great thing for PC gaming. It's to have like one company have like the chokehold on like, purchasing games. So I think that it's overall a good thing. I think time will bear that out.
I think so too.
I've said many times that like, I think that like gamers just want to get mad at stuff, and I
That's
don't,
very true.
I don't truck with that. It's like, I mean, I'll get mad about a game because the game pisses me off. But it's not I'm so over I'm mad at this developer because this or that, or, like I'm going to boycott this because, it's like, no, I may not buy a game because it, for whatever reason, but I'm also not going to like get on a high horse and like shout to the heavens about it and, whatever. It's like, no, like I'm just going to go about my business. There's so many games that I can play. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, I think this one is, and you don't even hear much about it anymore. Like, and when you do, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, it's out on the Epic Game Store. Sure. Yeah. Like it's not even a big deal. And I think in another year, it's going to be even less of a deal. So, I mean, I could be dead wrong. It could blow up in like a fucking volcano waiting to erupt or something, but we'll see. But I really doubt it. I really think this one's going to be like, sure, Epic Game Store, whatever. It's going to be like, I use EA's launcher all the time to play The Sims. It's fine.
Yeah. Speaking of blowing up this year, I think one thing that really blew up, I mean, let's say it's been a slow simmer for the last couple of years, but I feel that this is the year that it really blew up. Maybe also the tail end of last year because of Red Dead. But that would be like working conditions in, like large AAA developers and, you know, the murder on like personal time that is crunch time, which for people not in the know, I mean, how it's been for decades with game development is you get to a certain point in a game's development and then you crunch, which means you don't really go home for a few weeks. Like you might go home and shower and maybe shave and take a nap. But for the most part, you're probably living at your office while you finish off this game and, you know, put the last bit of polish on, get rid of like as many of the bugs as you can and whatnot. And that's just been like an accepted known thing for, you know, this is, I mean, like I said, decades. This is how it's been. Like I think I've told this on this show before, but like I remember old EGMs when I was like a teenager, you know, seeing articles where they would like tour Japanese developers or something and show like, oh, here's the cot where so-and-so has been sleeping because they don't really leave the office. And I was like, that's awesome. I want to sleep at work. Like, you know, obviously, I mean, I'm not even working at this point, but like the idea of like getting to make video games and then like also just like being there all the time, like was very appealing to me. And, you know, I actually, if I'm passionate about what I'm doing, I'll work a shit ton. Like I will put in 14 plus hour shifts, like without even thinking about it. I've even done it for jobs that I'm not passionate about. You know, I'm just a very dedicated employee, and people have exploited that. And definitely these developers are getting exploited. I think the big one for me that I noticed it with was there was a big thing about Mortal Kombat. Well, after Mortal Kombat 11 came out, because there was like a person who worked on Mortal Kombat 9 who, you know, came out and said, hey, look, like it was miserable, you know, and he laid out all this stuff. And I thought it was very telling that like the first tweet, a reply to him was like, man, but if I got to make something like, you know, Mortal Kombat, like I would love to be there and work those hours. And then like the next person was like, they're hoping to get people like you that they can take advantage of like this. Like you're proving the point. It's rough, man, because, you know, I think like a lot of the narrative this year was, you know, well, we're not going to support these games that treat their employees that way. But I don't know if that's necessarily the way to go, because, you know, if these games fail, then also those people are out of a job, you know.
Right. It's a tough line to walk, really. Like it's one of those things that I think it starts the way it started right now, and that's to make people aware that, hey, this is happening. The Mortal Kombat one was really interesting, and the one of the points that guy made was like especially interesting to me was people were getting PTSD from working on Mortal Kombat.
Oh, I can see that.
And to anybody out there's like, how? Imagine that game has some really advanced gore stuff going on. Yeah. And to get that way, you have to look at real life images.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking of that. I was just thinking of just having to look at the fatalities over and over.
Yeah. So looking at that stuff, and even that. Yeah. So looking at that stuff all the time, every day would really kind of start to fuck you up a little bit, maybe. And like, I was like, man, that's rough. And we were talking about another game that was like the BioWare thing. That was one that got real, when that report came out about how there was people quitting left and right. They had people taking just long vacations. They were just, the stress just killed them, and they were just off of work. They were done mentally. They could not handle it. And there was people going into like therapy. I believe they had a psychiatrist at the office or something like that. Yeah. Like it got bad. It got real bad. And this did start a little bit late last year with the Red Dead thing. Red Dead was, if I remember right, was one of the big ones that came out. Like if the brothers or whatever, or the guy. Oh, the Hausers. Yeah. The Hausers. Yep, that's it. If they were at the office, you know, hey, you better have your shit together and you better be doing all this stuff. And it's like I said, Basically, the way to fix this, at least to start to fix it, is to make people aware that, hey, this is happening.
Yeah.
It's not good. And then probably the next step is, hey, now we need to unionize and come up with some fucking rules to start to make this better.
Yeah. And I think part of it is that, you know, so many developers like plan for crunch in their schedule. And it's like, well, maybe you should like plan a different method, like a different pipeline of getting things done,
right,
so that you don't have to crunch. Now, and it's interesting that like what you say about BioWare, because many years ago, like this is back in 2009, so this would have been right around the EA acquisition of BioWare. I actually met someone who's an artist at BioWare, and he was doing like a little like seminar at a store I was working at about getting into the games industry. And I asked him about crunch because, you know, EA Spouse was one of the first times that there was like a thing about this. And this is back in the live journal days.
Right.
So, and, you know, obviously like BioWare had just been acquired by EA, and he said, I've been at BioWare. I think he'd been at BioWare for like 5 or 6 years at that point. He's like, we've never crunched. And it's very interesting to me that if they were crunching now, it's like, that's an EA thing.
I think it seems very developer dependent. It seems like your Activisions and your EAs and like your maybe your WBs, your bigger publishers are gonna seem to have this problem the most, because hey, this game's coming out at this day and you're gonna fucking get it done.
Yeah. Which and it's funny because like I think we now have a lot of usable data that shows, you know what? If you give the developers a little bit of extra time to really like work things out and don't have them under this like pressure, the games come out better and they review better and they sell better. Right? Like I think one of the best examples is Batman Arkham Asylum. That game I think that game got pushed back twice before it came out, but it wasn't, and it was weird because it was like a licensed game, but at the same time, it wasn't based on a movie. It wasn't based on a TV show. It was just this game that was coming out that had the Batman characters in it. And they were like, we're going to wait until this game is where it needs to be. And then, hey, one of the greatest games of the last generation spawned a huge franchise. I mean, that says it all.
I mean, I think one developer that gets in trouble for this a lot is one of my favorites is CD Projekt Red.
Mm-hmm.
They get into trouble for this a lot because basically, but they're foreign. So I don't think that it translates as well or something, because they're just like, no, we're working like crazy to get this thing out, and it's like, and everybody's like, hey, do you know kind of what's going on over here? And they're like, oh no, this is what we're into. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, all right.
And you also got to wonder, like, so they might be working crazy hours, but we don't know the culture there. And I don't mean like just like their culture as being are they Swedish? CD Projekt Red?
Oh God, I think I'd have to look that up. Yeah. I'll look that up. You keep talking.
But it might just be a thing where the actual people at that company are like just super jazzed about making that game and are there. Because that's the impression that I get from like the people at Larian Studios who make Divinity, Original Sin. Like if you told me that they're working like crazy hours, but it's because it's by choice, I would totally believe that. Because they just seem like so gung-ho about making their games, and they put out the best videos. I don't know if you've ever seen any of their developer videos. Like the one where they wanted to make crossplay for Divinity Original Sin with the Switch and the PC.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic. Yeah.
It's wonderful stuff, and it's like that looks like the coolest place to work. And it's like, you might pull in some 16-hour shifts there, but you're gonna love every minute of it. Like, I don't know, like
yeah. Who knows? And for the record, CD Projekt Red is Polish.
Polish, okay.
Totally forgot. I was like, I know this, but I can't remember it.
I did. I used to know it because I had watched that really excellent no clip series on it after I finished The Witcher 3. I don't know. It just left my brain. But
man, you totally mentioned something there that I kind of forgot to add to my docket, but we should talk about because it's becoming sort of a thing.
Go ahead.
Crossplay. That seems to be like a thing that's actually starting to happen now. And even more recently, it seems like this will kind of date the podcast a little bit. But
this is the podcast that gets dated. It's fine.
Okay, well, sure, fine. But just recently, fucking what was it? Sony just said that, hey, and this maybe not, it's not the biggest deal to me or a lot of people, but fuck their baseball game.
MLB The Show.
Blanking on that.
I only know that because of John Golson, because I didn't even know that Sony had
Patrick
the MLB.
likes it too. I see Patrick tweet about it all the time too. So.
Yeah, but I didn't even know that they had the MLB license until John brought it up like a year ago or something.
Yeah, they have the exclusive license to MLB, and now all of a sudden it seems to be happening that, hey, this is coming out on other systems and stuff like that, and like Fortnite's on everything, and it's crossplay. Yeah. And what's the other one? The car game that Rocket League. Yeah, Rocket League's coming out or is crossplay. There's a lot of them, and it seems like, hey, this is a thing that's happening. Destiny is another one it seems to be like that, and yeah, like I think that's really cool. Sony seemed to be the big holdout, and it seemed like all the other companies put the pressure on Sony, which good for them because
that was so. It's so interesting, and it makes me feel like the people that work at these companies don't pay attention to history because, and I've talked about this before, but Sony was had conquered the world twice in a row, PlayStation 1 and 2, and then got so arrogant, that they literally said that, to afford their $599 PlayStation 3, the people would get a second job because they're Sony,
Well, it's a luxury item, Julian.
Yeah, well, but it was, and hey, people bought the Xbox 360 instead.
Yeah, they sure did.
So then Sony came in, very humble, for this generation, but Microsoft was the one that had the big head and everything, and they're like, well, we're gonna make people play our way and blah blah blah, and it's like, yeah, look what happened, and now Sony's doing it again, and Microsoft is the one that's very humble, and it's like, I kind of see where the winds are going on this. No one else seems to.
It seems to go, whoever loses the last one kind of comes back in the next one. It's interesting, man.
Yeah. But I do, so I think the crossplay thing is really big, even though, neither of us are very social gamers, but at the same time, it just makes sense. Simply because if you have this game that only has a player base of 50,000 on this console and 200,000 on this console, right. Well, hey, if you have crossplay, that's a total thing of 250,000 players. That's better for everybody involved, because it also means that on that console there's only 50,000 players. You get some buzz there, and then maybe there's 75,000 players, 100,000 players.
Suddenly it picks up. Yeah, exactly. It's a big deal, and I'm happy to see that that's starting to come along a little bit. That's basically it. That's crossplay in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
Another weird thing that I just thought of, I'm sorry to keep bringing stuff up on the fly, but another next gen thing that I'm kind of hoping for, and I guess, you know what, I'll say that.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
You have that. Yeah, I'm glad I thought of this, though.
Okay. Well, did you want to bring up one of yours again? Because, that other one was just kind of a off the cuff.
No, you can go with one of yours, because I only have 3 and you have 5.
Okay.
So.
Well, and this... I don't even know how much I want to talk about this, because, we're not a political podcast, and, we don't talk a lot about politics, but I feel that we need to at least address, for the second year in a row, that Blizzard done fucked up.
Blizzard done fucked up bad.
So I'm sure everybody knows, but for the few people that don't, Blizzard had it was a Chinese, tournament for Hearthstone, which, Patrick is a big Hearthstone fan. I played a lot of it too, but I haven't touched it in ages. But they had a big tournament, and Blitzchung, who was the winner of the tournament, in an interview after the tournament, mind you, this wasn't even part of the main broadcast.
Yeah, he had won the tournament.
He had won the tournament, and all he said was, "Free Hong Kong, the great revolution of our time."
Yeah, revolution of our times, and he had
the gas mask on.
Yeah, gas mask on. Yes.
And so Blizzard took his money. They banned him from playing the game for a year, and they fired the announce team who was doing the interview,
which is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah,
that's the one that gets me, because I'm like, okay, all right, the way I'm to understand, because I've heard several ways that this went down.
Right.
So the way I'm to understand it went down is there was they basically went to Blitzchung and said, "Hey, we're going to come to you in just a bit. What are you going to say?" And he says, "I'm going to say this." Obviously, he probably didn't say exactly what he was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Those broadcasters probably had no idea that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know how you prevent that from happening. If this guy's going to do this thing, he's going to do this thing.
Right.
I don't know what the hell you're going to do.
And the announcers freaked out because they actually hid behind the desk right after he said it.
They knew it was not good for them.
Right.
They absolutely knew. And I remember watching the clip of it happen, and I was like, God, I feel bad for these guys. And they did not deserve what they got. I think that part was bullshit. I can understand, okay, it's bullshit that this guy got banned for some political speech because, Blizzard being an American company, they should fucking know better. I'm gonna say that flat out. I think they should fucking know better. That was a dumbass thing for them to do. If this would have been almost anything else, and I mean, I get what they said. They said we're banning this person because hey, they took focus away from the game. That we just want the discussion to be about the game.
The only way that I would cotton to that is if he had done it during the tournament as he was playing.
Right.
Otherwise it's this is an interview after the thing. It's not even being mass broadcast like the right. tournament was. But
this guy, like I said, those broadcasters didn't know this was going to happen. And even if, I don't know, man, this is a tough subject because it's I don't know what the fuck Blizzard was thinking with this. And it wasn't even it's outrage happened. It was very clear. And then Blizzard didn't say shit.
Right.
They just went radio silent, didn't say anything, stood behind the ban and just let it happen. And then
when they did finally say stuff, it was very much well, we're not censoring our players and we're not doing this because we have business in China. And it's bullshit. This was also happening right around the time that someone in the NBA pissed off China, and then that was a whole thing. And
that was a whole.
Here's the thing and this is about as political as you're going to get out of me on this show, but I've been noticing for many years, because I watch a lot of movies, and all of a sudden, about 5 or 6 years ago, I started to notice a lot of Chinese producing companies in the credits of the movies I was watching, in the pre-credits, and I was like, this is how they're going to take over. It's not going to be like a war. It's going to be through media and they're going to acquire so much capital through the entertainment sector. And then all of a sudden, people are taking notice. It's oh, they've got their hands in everything. And it's well, yeah, no shit. Right. They've been doing this for years. And, it's funny because you hear a lot, I listen to a lot more world news now, and it's there's all these stories, and it's China's kind of a problem, guys, just
right.
on multiple levels. And at some point,
right.
People, governments are going to have to deal with this. And for companies, it's well, you need to make a choice. Do you want to do business with, because, they've also been bending over backwards for China for years. World of Warcraft doesn't have undead characters. They took out the undead playable race.
You can't have skeletons in China at all. That's a big no-no. And there's a lot of.
I think Rainbow Six Siege completely changed the character for this and that, and it's
I believe so.
And it's on one hand I kind of get it, but on the other hand I'm a very big believer of if you don't like it, don't consume it. So right. Let the people decide. I'm sure there's plenty of people in China who are just fine with zombies. Right? Maybe the government objects because of
it's strictly a government thing. It's they can't that's what you get with communism.
Exactly.
That's just simply what happens. It's hey, this is what they say goes, and unfortunately that's just how that is.
Yeah.
Because the money's there, people are going to bend over for it, especially the bigger publishers like your Activisions and your whoever.
Yeah. And it does make me wonder because I had a friend who worked at Blizzard pre-Activision. She was in customer service, and I went to actually their Christmas party that year,
nice.
And it was really cool. And it's
I believe it.
They gave out I think 2 of the swords because they would give a sword out for I think 10 years. And so a couple
nice.
people got their swords, and like it just seemed like very like everybody was like very cool and everything. And it makes me wonder, like, if it was still just Blizzard, would this have been a thing, or was this like did this come down on high from Activision? But who knows? Like, maybe it doesn't matter anymore. Maybe they're so integrated.
It's tough to tell. It's tough to tell. And like, yeah, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Blizzard always seemed like a really cool company to work at, and it seems so much less cool now. And especially even looks less cool like when you get to BlizzCon this year. And basically, I don't remember this guy's name, but he was one of the Blizzard higher ups. I don't know if you know who this.
I don't remember the name. I remembered.
You know who I'm talking about, though?
I know that he got emotional for it, and people seem to think he was pretty sincere. But no? Okay.
Oh, if you listen to the wording of that apology, and I've heard this from multiple people who like went back and really listened to it. And it's one of those things that you have to kind of have certain things pointed out to you,
right?
As it's very, very corporate. They never
right, but that's what I'm saying is
the
that
situation by name.
The impression that I got, and I didn't watch the thing, but the impression that I got was that he was emotional, but the words coming out of his mouth were very corporate. But that might be where the emotional stuff was coming from, because it was almost like if you're watching Get Out, and you know there's the part. Like, minor spoilers for Get Out, but like, you know, where you'll see like the maid at the house, and for a split second her true personality comes through, and there's like tears streaming down her face, but then the person who's controlling her takes back over. Like, that's almost the impression that I got from this, where it's like he was actually like, you know, I don't want to be saying this way, because I feel a different way, but this is what like the overlords are making me say.
Yeah, because they never address it by name.
Yeah.
And like, basically they say, yes, we are truly sorry for this thing that we did. They never said what thing. And also, if you're truly sorry, you lift the fucking suspension on this guy and undo what you did. Yeah. If you were truly sorry, you could do that in a fucking flick of a finger.
They at least gave him his prize money back. Like, that's the most important thing.
They did that. Yeah. I mean, God bless. Also should be noted that there was a guy in a Magic tournament that wore I think it was a red mask the entire time, a Chinese player, like basically for the Revolution thing, for the entire tournament. Nobody said anything. Right. It was totally cool. Yeah, you know. Yeah, no big deal. Just Magic the Gathering's better than Hearthstone. Nothing. There, I said it. I'm kidding. I don't know. I've never played Hearthstone.
Matt Jorgensen is slow clapping right now, though. We see him, Matt.
I did that. That one's for you, Matt.
Yeah, you know, not much more to say about it than that. I mean, I know like a lot of places were talking about like, oh, maybe not even covering Blizzard and stuff like that. I can't go that far, because, man, Diablo 4 got announced this year.
I was just going to say, and you're part of the problem, Julian. They show you Diablo 4 and other people Overwatch 2, and you people lose your shit.
Well, like I also wasn't like, oh, I'm boycotting Blizzard and stuff like that. That's the thing is that I have a lot of opinions and that I don't share on the show or publicly.
Right.
Some of them would surprise people. Some of them, they can probably guess just from like little things here and there on the show.
Right.
But I'm not one of those people who gets so fired up about something that I really like take action. It's like I was never like, oh, I can't play Blizzard games. It's like, no, like this is kind of how it is everywhere, and like at some point somebody's going to have to tackle this, but it's not me, because I don't have any power to do so.
Right.
And also fucking Diablo 4, like, come on, you get to ride horses.
Admittedly, I wasn't too excited about either game, so like I was like, Diablo 4 looks alright, I guess, and like Overwatch 2, I don't even know why you need that. That seems like the most Activision ass shit of, hey, we need to make more money, put a number on the end of this thing. Oh, I sell it again.
I mean, I think you absolutely need an Overwatch 2. I'm just surprised at the way that they're doing it.
It's so early. It's way too. Yeah.
I don't think
it doesn't feel like
early.
A sequel.
Like that's the thing is, I don't think it's early. But I think
that game's still going. It's still going strong though. Like it hasn't valleyed or anything to where it's like, hey, we really need to innovate this now. Like there's still things you could probably add to Overwatch 1 that would be fine and people would be happy with it. Well, I don't know.
I was
like,
excited when they talked about single player content, but then not excited when it ended up being just like horde mode type stuff. Because as I've said before, it's like I want like full on story campaign with these characters. You know, I
that's what I want,
yeah.
and they're never going to give us that. It's just going to, man, that's such a bummer because they have so many interesting characters that I would love to like know the full story of the Overwatch thing, and I don't want to play the multiplayer to learn any of it. You know what I mean? Like that, they try to do that. And also fun thing about Blizzard before we move on. You ever notice that when Blizzard gets in trouble, a new character comes out as gay or something like that in Overwatch? It's
did someone new get outed this time?
I don't know if anybody did during this China. I keep thinking maybe they might have released, that might have been when they released the one of the new characters was like a black girl or something like that. I can't remember exactly which one. Somebody out there who is an Overwatch fan is screaming at me right now.
Well, that part,
I keep thinking something like that happened.
If that's the case, I mean, that's been in the works for way before they got in trouble.
Probably.
So. But yeah, like, so, I mean, and you know, to their credit, like they've definitely made Overwatch like a very diverse game.
Oh yeah, I think it's cool.
Like that's awesome. But yeah, I know, like, yeah, like they said that Tracer was gay, and it almost seemed to be like just to like kind of curry favor. Like I don't know if there was anything to support that in the game until after that.
I think Soldier 76 was another one. I think he's something. I can't remember exactly what, but yeah, but. You know, and cool on them that they do that, but it's just like, you know, it's just something to think about. You know, pay attention next time something bad happens with Blizzard. See if an Overwatch character turns out to be something weird. You know,
or maybe it was a case of like, let's hold this next Overwatch character until something bad happens, and then we'll just shadow drop it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll hold that one back for a little bit. All right.
What do you got for us, Justin?
Oh, what do I got for us? Oh, geez. Oh, okay. Here's a kind of recent news story that caught my attention, and I don't know if it caught the attention of a lot of other people, but it's one of those things to think about. There's a game. It's not a very good game. It's called Tron Evolution.
I'm not even aware of this. Oh, wait, the older game.
Older game. Okay. Old game. Yes. I think it's from 2009, something, 2010, something like that. You can no longer play that game at all if you own a digital copy, because there is a DRM company that went out of business that worked for Disney, and you can't log into the thing anymore to activate the thing that you need to do to play the game, even though you own the game and you downloaded it.
Wow.
And all that stuff. You can't actually play it. Which raises some questions for me as to, when you buy a digital game, do you really own it? And the answer is no, you don't. You own a license to play that.
Technically, you don't own a physical game either. If you ever look in the legalese in your instruction manuals for any physical game that you own, the disc gives you a license to play the game. Right. But technically, it's just a license. Right. So, you know, there's that. But obviously, I mean, with a physical game, you can lend it, you can sell it. You
can kind of do different stuff with it. Right. Digital, you can't exactly do that. And like, I don't know, just something weird to think about.
Oh, dude,
like, it kind of makes me nervous.
It's a scary thing because, as I've said multiple times, like, I am almost completely digital on my Xbox. Or on the Xbox One, sorry. Like, I bought Red Dead Redemption 2 physically because that was on sale at a store. But, like, I think the last physical game that I bought for the Xbox One was Assassin's Creed Odyssey, again on a sale last year. And okay, so here's a perfect example. When we did our Halloween Havoc episode where we were recommending horror games for you to play, I brought up Alan Wake. And I was like, oh yeah, that one's backwards compatible, so that's on the store. I just went randomly to go look on the store because I have the disc, but I'm lazy. And I was like, I just want to like buy it digitally, so I just have it on the hard drive. It's not available in this region. Like, you can see it on the store, but you can't purchase it. Yeah. And I think that has to do with the licensed music.
The music. Yeah,
and
probably.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I mean, we had already started to see this last generation with some of the Xbox Live Arcade games. Like, one of the biggest examples is whatever company released the arcade perfect ports of Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 went under, and you can't buy those games anymore. I'm not even sure if you can download them anymore. For a while there, you could download them if you owned them.
Another a good one that you can't buy anymore is all the Telltale ones, I think. There was a funny story
Those have
just
been
this year
picked
about.
up.
Have they
Yes,
been? Okay.
because I actually just saw them on sale recently.
There was a brief period of time with the Telltale games where I believe, I can't remember which one it was, but there was, and I think it was on Xbox 360 or something like that. It was on one of the older generation platforms where you could still buy those games. While they're in that limbo phase. Yeah, I think they have been picked up now that you mention it. But when they were in that limbo phase, they couldn't get rid of it from the store. So what they did was they made the price $500 for one episode.
Oh, I did
so
hear
that
about
nobody
that.
would buy
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that was what they did. That was their workaround, which is really funny to me that that's what they did. But yeah, like, but man, it's dodgy because like there's a lot of these games that rely on like an online server, like, you know, City of Heroes is like one I keep hearing about, and I'm not sure which podcast it was that I kept hearing about City of Heroes. Might have been Giant Bomb actually. But they had a big, like, that game's been down for a long time, but like people on the internet slowly like compiled the online stuff because online games rely on basically a server. Like the server has to feed you all the information in the game back and forth. That's how it works. Basically, they learned how to spoof that server and make the game again. So it was actually really interesting, and there was like this whole underground thing for it, and they basically told no one, and then somehow it leaked, and then people were getting into that game and that weren't supposed to be there, and then it kind of took off from there, and they got in trouble. It was weird. But yeah, stuff. But like these online games can disappear forever. We'll never see them again. Like phone games disappear all the time. There's phone games you'll never see again, which is kind of sad.
One of the big ones is that Mass Effect 3 companion game that you need in order to get your 100% readiness in Mass Effect 3. You can't play that anymore. So good luck getting 100% readiness in Mass Effect 3. No, and it's real scary. Like, you know, obviously, like I have very strong opinions on game piracy and emulation, but you know, I do admire people who do it for the sheer aspect of game preservation. I was
going to say, I think there's a way to do emulation and stuff, and not through piracy, but I think through emulation and just preserving these things that will never exist unless we save them.
But like, so here, you know, because the Alan Wake one was a good example. So like I can only play that game from disc, but another example from last generation, and this is a thing, and you know, I definitely think that things need to change as far as how like licensing deals are done and copyright and stuff like that, especially with music, because you can't play Grand Theft Auto 4 with the soundtrack that it was released with if you have it digitally. Right. And
they lost some of the licensing to some of the tracks on that,
including almost all of Vladivostok FM, which was the only radio station I listened to because I was like, this is what Nico would listen to because he misses home. Also, it was like just really bitchin' music, and I own some of it on like
that music was pretty bad. I remember that station.
I'm putting that in this episode. But yeah, so it's like unless you have a physical disc and then like you don't update it. Like that music is just gone, and for me, like if I didn't have Vladivostok FM, like that game loses a lot of its atmosphere, and it's a completely different experience at that point. So it's
a lot of little things. I really like. I know there is a game preservation. There's like a movement or like some sort of like company that's trying really hard to preserve a lot of that stuff. And I know I've heard them be interviewed, and they sound like really cool guys, and I really hope that takes off. I really want there someday to be just like a gaming museum so we don't lose a lot of this stuff. I know obviously we're going to lose some of it.
It's in California, and yeah, I mean, honestly, like low key, like my dream job would be to be a curator at like a game museum, because I do think that that's kind of what I'm like cut out for. But yeah, and Frank Cifaldi, who's very well known in like games media and stuff like that, he also works on like helping, like he was not responsible, but he worked on that recent like Taito anniversary collect. Was it Taito? That one that has like the really cool, like they're like comprehensive features where like you can actually watch a video playthrough of a game, but then press start and then pick up from where that video left off. Like really cool features like
Really?
that. Yeah,
That's
it might
cool,
be an
yeah.
SNK collection that came anyway.
I know
came out,
there's
like,
a big
last year.
SNK collection. Yeah.
But he worked on that. You know, he's a big gaming historian and stuff like that. One of the greats, and he's definitely helped with that museum, and it's really fascinating stuff. But yeah, I'm, you know, on that aspect of it, you know, where I get into issues with it is like, you know, when you have people saying like, well, I don't want to, like, okay, great example. I don't want to pay for Diablo 4 because Blizzard, you know, like screwed over Blitzchad, but I still want to play it.
No. That's
Yeah.
wrong. That's where that's piracy. That's wrong. Don't do that. I what I'm talking about. The only way is that, and even like I'm more like open to it is like, hey, we bought the game, like we own a copy of it. Here it is. Like even if the game doesn't work, but we have a clear like actual copy, but we emulated it. We have it on like a ROM or whatever so it works. Like that's fine. You know, like I'm all for that. I'm all for like as long as you own the game, and then like I own the game, I bought it, but I need a way to play it now. And I don't, because a lot of like even your physical media is, guess what? It's going to go bad.
Sure,
like,
eventually.
That stuff decays.
Yeah.
It does decay and it will go bad at some point. So at some point you're going to need a way to play that stuff. But I feel like as long as you own, you own it and you have clear ownership of it, I think it's okay. Like, you know, that, and lost my voice there for a second. But as long as you have a way to play it, and like I just want that stuff to be preserved. I love the history of video games. I always find that stuff really interesting, and like I really want this stuff to stick around. Even like your dumb like phone game that nobody played that had ponies and was bad, like that game too. Like people should be able to see this dumb pony game that was bad. Like, I want that thing to exist. Like, because you never know, that might innovate somebody to make some really awesome thing.
And you know, I've said multiple times, like, one of my top 5 Final Fantasy games is Final Fantasy 11. That is an MMORPG. Yeah. Now, that game is still running on PC. I have said goodbye to it a long time ago when they cut off the console servers. But one day, the PC servers are going to go down too. Now, there are a lot of people petitioning Square Enix to release like an HD single player version of the game, and I would love that, especially
that'd be cool
for people like you who like, well, I didn't want to play the MMO versions. Like, no, but this is one of the best Final Fantasy stories ever told, and it's one of the best Final Fantasy worlds ever created. You need to experience this game in some form,
right?
But also just for me personally, because all I really want to do is go back to West Ronfar and listen to the Ronfar music again and walk around and kill some rabbits. Because like I have so many fond memories tied to that world and that game. And, you know, right now, unless I really want to fiddle with like, you know, well, I also cut my subscription, but unless I want to get my subscription back and fiddle with PC controls, which I don't want to do, then that game is kind of dead for me. And that sucks.
You can hook a controller up to a PC.
I don't.
Or it works.
Yeah, I don't remember if. No, I think I tried that with. I don't know. 11 is weird. Like.
Yeah, I believe. Now that's an older game, so I imagine that would be a little.
Yeah.
Теплое место на улице ждут отпечатков наших ног. Звездная пыль на сапогах. Мягкое кресло, клетчатый плед, не нажатый вовремя курок. Солнечный день в ослепительных снах. Группа крови на рукаве, мой порядковый номер.
But speaking of our all-digital future, Justin, I don't know. I thought this was going to be a bigger thing than it was. I guess I should have known better. But Google Stadia was announced and soft released this year, which, you know, well, okay. When they announced it, there was one glaring like oddity with it. But you know, the way that it was pitched was that, hey, we are going to stream games to any of your devices. You know, you can play on a phone, on a computer, on a TV, anything that can run Google Chrome, basically. And you're going to get the best version of that game because we have the best data centers. We're going to get you those 4K, basically play these PC games on the ultra settings. The only way that you can play it this year is that you had to get the premium pack, which you purchased a controller and a Chromecast Ultra, but also 3 months of their premium service, which is a $10 a month service. But that doesn't get you, a la carte gaming like Game Pass or like Netflix. You still got to buy your games for $60.
Yep.
And you definitely don't own anything there. Because
if they go down, that all your games are gone. So
and also I guess we should have expected that it would have been kind of a shit show when it started, but I guess I was thinking that Google has more money than God, so they could, handle this, but it doesn't even do the stuff that they said it was going to do. The games are all running in 1080p. I just saw the Digital Foundry video for Final Fantasy 15, which mind you is a 3-year-old game at this point, 3.5 years old. And it can't even run it at basically it's running it at base PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 4 specs.
Right.
And they compared the Xbox One X version to the PC version with all the stuff turned on. It's man, I miss the days when it took forever for PC to catch up to the consoles. Now it's the PC is superior before the console even comes out, and it frustrates me so as a dyed-in-the-wool console gamer. But the Stadia version is not even close. It's not that it looks bad, but when you see them side by side, yeah.
So basically what it's doing is it's like you said, it's basically streaming the 1080p signal kind of like a base PlayStation 4 or whatever, and then it's upscaling it to 4K. So it's technically in 4K, but not really. It's like you're watching a 4K video stream.
It's not. No, but it's not. Well, for Final Fantasy 15, it's not even that.
Oh no. It probably isn't. It's not good. It's really not good. The best it can run, and this is, and I'm guessing it's based on what kind of internet you have and how good that is, because I'm guessing it adjusts on the fly to however good or bad it is, and that's basically how I'm guessing you'd have to do it. This technology, I remember when I heard about it, I was like, this is doomed to fail. At least in the short term, there's not enough places that have this good of internet. Obviously it's going to be fine in where you are in Austin, where there's good internet, and in San Francisco, where a lot of game places are based out of. They have, your bigger cities, places with decent internet, but where I live, fuck no, we ain't running Stadia in this shit. That ain't gonna happen. You
need to tell that to the Census Bureau when they come next year. It's we ain't running Stadia in this household.
Yeah, we ain't running that shit in here, man. Come on now. But man, no, it's bad. That shit's it's bad.
Now, I do believe that this is the future. I don't know. I don't think Stadia is going to last, but this is what Microsoft have been talking about at the beginning of this generation.
Okay. I'm glad you brought it up. Microsoft, I think, is probably doing it the right way.
It's amazing how they've turned that message around over the course of 6 years.
Stadia is doing it probably the wrong way. They kind of bullshitted their way through this thing, promised a lot of shit that they trying to cash a lot of checks their mouth can't cash. I don't know how that saying goes. But anyway, they're fucking up, basically. They're fucking up real bad. They promise a lot of shit that they just can't do.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's going to make a lot of people nervous when it's Google, because Google is known to just be fuck this thing, we're done with it, it's not making any money. And for you to pay full price for a game and then for them to go, no, this doesn't work anymore, we're done with it.
And I think
now you don't have that game.
I think we were all surprised at the dearth of games available, because I think we all thought that if it's on the PC, then they can just put it on Stadia without a lot of effort. But clearly that's not the case. But also,
that's definitely not the case.
Also, they released the 3 current or the 3 most recent Tomb Raider games all in a like on launch day, but they're all like higher than you would expect to pay for those games. I mean, the first Tomb Raider in that series is from 2013, and I think you're still having to pay like, you know, $20 or $30 for it, and you can routinely get that game on sale digitally for like $5, and you can find a copy at a store for like between $5 to $10 on any given day.
Easily.
Yeah,
exactly. It's a bad look. It's a real bad look. They didn't come out strong.
Controller looks terrible too.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? But I think the biggest mistake they made is they didn't say, "Hey, this is a beta." If they'd have said, "Hey, this is a beta, this is not a full launch." No, they said this is the launch of the game or of the console. This is how we're doing it. And they didn't do that. They said this is, if they would have said this is a beta, I think people would have been like, "Okay, well, they're still working on it, obviously. It's fine." But now, because this is how the launch is, I think this thing is going to get forgotten about. I don't think it's a good system. They're going to have to really work at even keeping people around, because people don't want that for game streaming. If you're going to do a streaming game service, you want Netflix of games. Right. And now I'm not saying Xbox is going to have Netflix of games, but they do have that thing called Game Pass that's kind of close. So if you get that up and running with game streaming service, that's pretty strong. Even
if, because there's always like 100 games on Game Pass, and I think that they don't like, it's all like, I don't think they try to add to that. They just like remove games and then bring it back to 100.
Yeah,
but
they rotate and they warn you if something's leaving.
But let's say even if the games that are on Game Pass right now, that didn't move for the next 6 months, I would still, I would not run out of stuff to play. There and stuff that I want to play. There is a great selection of stuff on there. I was talking about before the show, like they're about to put all the Final Fantasy games on there. They're about to put all the Yakuza games on there. Those two right there will keep me busy for like a couple years, straight. And, I know I say this a lot, but I'm really knuckling down for next year. I need to start saving some money, and I need to stop just like buying games, constantly. Like there's a lot of games that I bought this year just to be like part of the conversation, like Mortal Kombat 11, Borderlands 3, Warhammer, Chaos Bane. Games that like I enjoyed to varying degrees, but not games that I really personally should have paid $60 for the day that they came out, right? And so I wrote a list, and it's like, these are the 5 games that I'm paying full price for in 2020. Anything else that I buy is going to be on sale, or I'm just going to rely on Game Pass, because holy crap, is Game Pass like a really good deal, guys? Like I'm not trying to be a shill. It's just like, I have been super impressed with, it's not that Microsoft is putting out like their cast-offs. It's like, no, like,
no, there's really good stuff on there.
There are 3 games on there that I would have bought for full price, or would have, well, one of them not full price, but they have right now. There's Devil May Cry 5, there's Metro Exodus, and there's The Outer Worlds. I planned on buying every one of those games this year. Those 3 right there make it worth the monthly fee. That pays for it right there.
On top of like a lot of like really cool indie games that like you probably wouldn't want to pay full price for, but are there for you to check out. And like Game of the Year's type stuff is on there. Like a lot of people really are high on Outer Wilds. Right. I had to specify that. And that's on Game Pass. And like I played that game that you told me to play,
The Gardens Between.
Gardens Between.
And After Party, which you played and I haven't gotten around to yet. But that's one that I was fully going to buy because I loved Oxenfree so much. I was like, oh, I'm in. But then I was like, oh, it's on Game Pass. So I've already got it.
Yeah, and it was free. And I really liked After Party. It definitely had some technical issues. I think they patched them. I really hope they patched them because that game was really cool. I just hope. But
Bloodstain got added, and I was like, okay, I will play through this again on Xbox One just for the achievements.
Right, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Like it's and like I'm with you. I don't want to sound like I'm a shill, but man, it's a really good deal. It's really cool. Like I really like that, and that coupled with a game streaming thing is a really good idea. And also, Xbox has a thing where like it's not just like. Yeah, you're buying the game, but you also have that backup of, hey, I can download this onto a hardware thing and actually play it on a TV like a real game. Because Google Stadia definitely, like from what I've viewed of it, from what the streams of it I've watched and stuff like that, like listening to like Giant Bomb talk about it, like Jeff Gerstmann, knows his shit. And when I listen to him talk about like, there's definitely, when he goes, there's something slightly off about everything I play. Like there's something a little bit off, but he's like, but I kind of expect that. But the big thing to me is it's like you're playing a game and you're watching yourself through a live stream play a game.
Right.
Like you're watching yourself through a Twitch feed play the game, which is off-putting. And I'm like, that sounds right. Yeah. But, you know, like when you have that, like, hey, I want to play on a big TV with all my stuff and get my 4K set up and all that stuff, you have that Xbox backup to go and do that. And hey, if I'm on the road doing this other thing, I can't exactly do that. Now I can play on the road too with the Xbox thing. That's, to me, is the right way to do it. And Stadia, I think that thing's going to die. I'm just going to be real honest. I think it's going to die.
For me to clarify, like, I do think that this is the future. I don't necessarily think that Stadia is in that future. I just think that this is ultimately where we're going. And again, going back to what we talked about earlier, it's kind of a scary thing, especially for someone like me who is a game collector and who likes his physical media. And like I said, I mean, I really enjoy the way that my Xbox One is set up, where like that's the reason why I ended up playing like a couple 360 games this year, is because they were just on the hard drive there, and I was like, it's time to play Dante's Inferno, right? And because it was right there, I just didn't have to think about it. But at the same time, it's like, but what if EA pulls Dante's Inferno next year? You know, like I don't have. Well, I think I actually I have it on disc, like on the shelf, but that's a bad example. But you know what I mean, like.
I totally get what you mean. Yeah.
It's an interesting and scary proposition, but I do think this is ultimately where we're going. But like you said, part of it is infrastructure, and I think that, I mean, that's a bigger problem than video games. Like, you know, there's a lot of countries who are like petitioning to make the internet a right.
A right.
And then we have our country who's actually actively working to
against it.
Yes, you know, with the guy with a very punchable face is just like smirking constantly about it. We're not going to get into it.
Yeah. We're not a political podcast.
He's got such a punchable face, though, Justin.
Yeah. That guy you talk about, every time I hear him talk, like I'm like, and I, you know, we're not a political podcast, but like that guy could be telling the stone cold truth, and I would still be like, he could be like, the sky is blue. I'd be like, I don't believe you.
Yes.
I don't believe you at all. I need to go check this right now. He's just one of those types of people. Yeah. Anyway,
well, Justin, the last thing that I've got is actually like stuff I wanted to close the show with, because it's actually more us looking to the future. So, did you have anything else that you wanted to hit before we jump into that?
I only got one last thing, and that's how you think E3 is going to be like this year? Because I'm kind of worried about where that's going.
Wait, I'm sorry. What? I didn't catch that.
How do you think E3 is going to go this year?
Oh, this coming?
Okay. Yeah, like, because I'm kind of worried about how that show is going just in general.
Oh, I've been worried about E3 for years.
Yeah, and it seems to be getting a lot worse as we go along.
Yeah.
Like, because, like, Sony's not there anymore. Like, I mean, even the press conferences that are there, it's kind of, like, really underwhelming. And things are getting released, like, you know, we're at a different time now where you can just kind of do your own little conferences, like Nintendo does it all the time now. And those little Nintendo Directs are really cool and awesome. And I look forward to them every time they happen. And now Sony's doing their own thing, like just, you know, right before, like a few days ago, they dropped a RE3 remake.
Oh,
in,
dude.
Sony Direct. And that looks so cool.
Oh. I had no, so that legit, like, I just turned on YouTube yesterday and I was like, what? Because I had no idea. Yep. Like, I know that I'd heard people saying, like, they'll probably remake Resident Evil 3 in the Resident Evil 2 engine. I was like, well, yeah, I'm all for that. Thinking that that's going to be like a year or two away. And then all of a sudden, here's a gameplay trailer, and it's coming in March because, of course it is, because Capcom owns the beginning of every year.
I think it's early April.
I thought I saw March.
I think it's early April.
Okay.
But I could be wrong.
Well, but like that.
But around that, it's around the time of death is what I'm calling that.
But it's also
it's just big game, like right in that strain of time.
But since Resident Evil 4, Capcom has kind of owned the first quarter of the year. Like, they always release like a big game. Well, if they have a big game to release, it's releasing in the first quarter of the year. Like clockwork, and it's awesome.
I mean, they released, two of them last year? They had RE2 remake, and then
that was
they
this
had...
year.
Yeah, this year. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I meant this year.
Okay.
Sorry, I keep thinking we're already done with this year because we're recapping it. But no, they had two of them this year. They had a remake, RE2 remake, and then they had Devil May Cry 5, like almost right next to each other.
Yeah.
And
Last year was Monster Hunter World, and
Monster Hunter World was a huge game. Like, I didn't get into it, but man, that game was huge and people loved it.
Yeah.
So,
where were we going with that? E3. Yes. Okay. Perfect example. Longtime listeners will know that, like, we used to do multiple podcast E3 week because I love E3. I've been to the show 5 times. 3 of those were in the fat times of E3, which was awesome.
Right.
I've been to I went to the first E3 after they did that weird, like, they left the convention center one year and it was real anemic and depressing. I went to the first one after they came back in 2010. And then I went to the first one that was open to the public and said, I will never go again. Because I
remember that.
But
I remember hearing that episode and being like, man, that sounds like it sucks.
Yeah. But I don't watch sports and I don't celebrate Christmas. E3 is my Super Bowl and the Giant Bomb Game of the Year deliberations are my Christmas.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And one of the things about E3 that I love and will always love as long as they continue to do it, I love to watch the Giant Bomb guys talk over the press conferences, and I love all of those night shows. I listen to the podcast version, but I love all of those nightly shows that sometimes were like 4 hours long, and there's like 3 of them. E3 week. I fucking love that stuff. And
they're fun. They're a lot of fun.
And I think E3 is important for industry people to get together. I think it's also that the game industry needs that big flashpoint of, like, this is when all the big stuff happens.
Yeah.
Next year will be very telling because if we have 2 new console launches and those, like, Microsoft and Sony don't bring it hard, both of them, not just one of them, at E3, it's over. Like, just full stop. And, I've said for years that, like, E3 doesn't have to die. They just need to change the way they do it. And one of the big things I think that they need to do, I'll even pay for it. They can do it like they do BlizzCon. Let me pay $50 and let me stream the entire show to my system and also get to play all of the demos.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Yeah.
Maybe it's by company. So it's like you pick Xbox or PlayStation, right?
Yeah, maybe not every demo, maybe there's certain ones they don't want you to play, but there's a lot of demos that are at the show that I'm sure, like, they'd want other people to play because they show them on the floor to, the public now.
Yeah, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, but they're works in progress. The consumers don't know that." I have played I've played a lot of E3 show demos in my time. I have never seen one where it was like, "Ooh, this looks rough," or a thing where it was like it was broken or it didn't work. I've never seen that happen. The only thing that I ever saw, which is actually one of my favorite E3 moments, I was playing Lord of the Rings, Two Towers for PlayStation 2. It was the EA, like, action game.
Yeah, I know it.
And some developer came in and brought in, he was very excited, and he put in a new disc next to me, and all it was like the first build of the Gandalf Balrog scene with the "You shall not pass," but in video game form. I was probably one of the first people to see that outside of the development team. That was really neat. But again, that wasn't even like the demo that I was playing. It's just that he was like, oh, and he put it in for, like, the other guy that was working the booth, and he was like, that guy is like, I don't know if I was filming it or I was just watching, and he's like, that guy's looking, and he's like, oh, it's okay. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
That's cool. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. You nailed it. I think this year is going to be super important because of these upcoming console launches that we're all aware of. Mm-hmm. And if it's like you said, if they don't bring it or if they flop completely, like last year was like so telling that, hey, this console generation is pretty much on the downswing, like it's on the decline. And
I thought it was fair of Sony to say, hey, look, we don't actually have anything new to show.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought that was good. It's like, okay, like, you're not going to just like show us a bunch of like stuff we've already seen because that doesn't go over well. Fine.
Yeah, exactly. But now that they have a new console coming out, like, I really want to see them go hard because I know there's like maybe some weird stuff where like, Sony's got to pay a bunch of money there. Sony, they'll do it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really interested to see. I'm really excited for this year's E3. And like you said, if it flops, then it's going to be real telling. Like we're going to know that show is not what it used to be, and that now people get their information other ways, I guess. But I hope it doesn't, because I really look forward to it every year. And it's like you said, it's kind of like the Super Bowl for video games to me. Like I always admire it for that, and I hope it doesn't go away. But
one thing that has this is just, I mean, you can't put this genie back in the bottle, but the fact that now with just the way that information is disseminated, that like all of pretty much everything is known before the show, and that was always the thing, is like not knowing what was going to happen and then getting all of these announcements was so awesome. Now, like, the Resident Evil 3 thing is a perfect example. Apparently that leaked a while ago.
Yeah,
I didn't hear about it. And so when it was like one of the greatest moments of the year for me yesterday when I watched that trailer, because I was like, I didn't know this was coming so soon.
Yeah, I think it wasn't a while ago. It was like a week or two ago. From the time it got dropped, somebody leaked the box art or something on Twitter. I think Sony fucked up somehow.
Someone always
put
fucks
something
up
out.
To the point
somebody fucked.
It makes you wonder if it's actually a fuck up or if this is just the way that business is done now.
Well, I think this one was legit a fuck up, because if you watch how they reveal that thing, if you didn't know that was coming and that would have just come on, it would have been a mark out moment. But like, so many people knew it was coming that it wasn't as big as it probably should have been,
right?
You know, but like, you know, that's what it is. What it is. Yeah. But you know,
because I love the one more thing in a press conference. Like that is one of my favorite things.
That's my favorite thing. And when I don't get one, I'm always disappointed. I'm always bummed. I'm always like, oh, come on.
And I know I said it this year before E3, but I'm going to say it again for this coming one. I'm really hoping that Square Enix is like, oh, and by the way, Final Fantasy 16. I just need a logo. I just need like official confirmation that they are working on it. Because the big rumor is that I think it's Naoka Yoshida, or they call him Yoshi P for short. He's the director of Final Fantasy 14: A Realm Reborn. He's the one who saved Final Fantasy 14.
I'm familiar.
He's an amazing man. He has, well, there's a couple things. I think I've said this on the show before, maybe not. It's a good time to recap if I haven't. Or if I have, rather. He is working on a next generation project. This much is known. And he's staffing for it. The job listing, for this project, shows an airship over some concept art. Like, it's an airship flying over a very fantasy looking landscape. And he has always said, well, not always, but he has said in recent interviews over the last few years that he believes that Final Fantasy needs to return to its fantasy roots. And if he was working on a mainline Final Fantasy game after 14, he would draw from the first expansion, Heaven's Ward, which is one of the greatest things I've ever played in Final Fantasy history.
I've heard good things.
Yes.
About it, so yeah.
And it's like, if he's directing the next Final Fantasy game and they announce it next year, I'm going to wet myself, Justin.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool, man.
I wish that because I used to take vacation days for E3, and I wish that I wish that I could do that next year, but my maybe I haven't actually decided what I'm going to do with that week. I might take vacation for E3 this year. Not to go, just to sit at home and watch it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because you really get a better experience that way anyway. Trust me, I've been there.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fun to actually go anymore. Even if like you're in the media.
Yeah. Like, my first E3 was phenomenal. Getting to play Zelda Wind Waker, Mario Sunshine, Eternal Darkness, and Metroid Prime all at the same show, and meeting Miyamoto. Like, holy shit. Like,
yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, that would be cool.
You know what is also cool is the next generation, which, you know, this is our last time to really speculate. We did a little bit of this last year, but now we know that they're, you know, both the next PlayStation and next Xbox are coming out next year, next holiday. And, you know, like, what do we want? What are we hoping for? What are we dreading, if anything?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm hoping for. That's a big thing with me, is I've thought about it. And I'm like, you know, I don't actually know what I want. I guess they're leaning into this faster load times thing really hard. They're going really big on that, which is cool. From what I'm to understand, that's going to really affect how you can design a game, because like if a game doesn't need much to load and it's going to, you know, load this stuff really quickly, you can do it changes a lot of how you design the game in the first place. I mean, you think of all like the things like a game like God of War does to hide its loading screens with, you know, or Tomb Raider or whatever, where you go in between the rocks and that's where the load's taking place, is doing that to hide it.
Long corridors that, you know.
Yeah, stuff like that, you know, or elevators, the classic, God, Nier Automata with a fucking elevator. Anyway,
I don't even remember an elevator in that one. I mean, Mass Effect is my go-to.
Oh, there's one elevator in Nier Automata that I can definitely think of where you go. It's in the theme park, and it goes down into almost nothing. It's so clearly to hide a loading screen. But anyway, but stuff like that. Now you don't have that hindrance, so you don't need to do that. Now you can kind of work, or it may give a different dimension to things. Really, like what I'm kind of hoping for is like visually, like, I don't know. I know games can look better, obviously. Like, we're always going to, like, slowly improve in that department. I'm not even so much looking for that sort of improvement. All I'm really looking for is, like, I want, like, almost like that like Crackdown 3, like, destruction technology, like, stuff like that. Right. But, like, we don't have to go to a cloud server. We just have it, you know, and like, we don't have to, like, I'm looking
put it in just the multiplayer. This is in the game. Because, you know, that's right. I never saw any of that stuff in Crackdown 3 because I didn't play the multiplayer.
Right. Not many people did. Yeah. I don't think many people played that game at all. But you know, stuff like that. Like, that's what I'm kind of looking for the next gen. There was something else that I mentioned earlier, and I can't remember what it is now. I was sitting here like blanking. I was like, "What was that thing I was going to mention?" It was the thing
that you came up with, and you're like, "Oh, I'll save that."
Yeah, and then now I've completely forgotten it. That's how my brain works. So my bad. If it springs into my head, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But
well, to piggyback off the loading thing, because so my thing is that I'll believe it when I see it, because what I've maintained for years is that every time, like, you know, every generation loading times are going to be the same because the graphics get exponentially better and it takes longer to load those graphics. And if they're telling, you know, but again, I don't know what solid state drives can do. So
I was going to say solid state drives make a big difference.
If this is an actual game changer, you know, because, you know, obviously for years I've been saying that I have real big problems with big empty open world games. Maybe the reason a lot of those games are so big and empty is because they're masking load times left and right. You know,
it could be.
So, if this is working as advertised, it could fundamentally change the way we play games, and that's exciting.
I mean, okay, for example, like Sony showing off Spider-Man
right.
On their next-gen hardware, and like this is how fast, you know, like, and basically they're showing how it would mask the load time on a regular PS4. They would, you know, sped up the game, and they'd be like, they'd hit a wall basically to where the game had to load, and then new technology, they can fly right across the city. Basically, like, that's kind of what you're going to expect. Like, yeah, you're kind of masking a lot of that stuff.
And that's great when you're playing last gen's game on a much beefier system, but what happens when you're playing Spider-Man 2 for PlayStation 5?
Well, see, here's the thing is I don't think we've made that big landmark stride when it comes to graphics yet. I don't expect this next generation to really be like, holy shit, look at the graphics on this thing.
Oh, no,
I mean, there's going to be games that look really pretty and like really, really, really good. But I think we've kind of hit a spot where we're kind of at not a peak, but like kind of like a plateau right now. And maybe it's a steadily inclining plateau, but it's sort of a plateau.
Yeah, it's not, and I've said this before, but it's not going to be like this super noticeable thing, but as you start to look closer, you're like
there'll be little tiny things.
And what'll be telling, because I think both systems are supposed to be backwards compatible. It's when you'll notice it is when you go back to play a PlayStation 4 game on your PlayStation 5, and you'll be like, oh, I didn't realize that this looked this bad. And it's not that it's bad, because like a perfect example is I was watching a little bit of, I think I mentioned this on the show. I was watching a little bit of Halo 5. And I was like, that game looks like shit. And it's like, but no, it doesn't. It's just that like games have like improved quite a bit in the few years since Halo 5 came out.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, okay. Like I hadn't noticed it, but we've been increasingly, well, and I've said it too, it's like, like the PlayStation this year or this generation did keep blowing my mind graphically, where it's like, I thought Horizon Zero Dawn was the best looking game ever. And then Spider-Man came out and that was the best looking game ever. And then God of War came out and that was the best looking game ever. And then Red Dead Redemption 2 came out and that was the best looking game ever. And it's like, holy crap, guys. Like, we don't need next gen consoles. And it's like, well, now I guess we're getting to that point where we kind of do. But, it's like, I could take sequels to all of those on the PlayStation 4 and I'd be fine.
Right. And like I said, solid state drives will they will make a lot of the loading better. I'll give this example. I think I've given this example before, but like I played a lot of Skyrim on my PC, and I played it on console a little bit before that. Actually, playing on Xbox One when they re-released the special edition actually made me want to go get into the modding scene really big on my PC. So that's what I did, and I have a solid state drive on my PC. I don't run the best PC. It's a 1080. It's not a 2080 or whatever. It's it gets by. It does its thing. It's pretty good graphics wise. I can run a lot of things on the good graphics settings. I don't really know a lot about PC gaming. I'll be the first to admit it, but you play it on special edition on Xbox on just on what it runs on. It takes a little while for that game to load. On PC, on a solid state drive, it was like, holy shit, 2 seconds that thing loaded. I was like, damn, dude, that was nuts. So there is a difference. It is a big difference. So
that's exciting.
It is.
I think I said this on that episode with Mike Fallick that we just released, but and also I didn't mention at the top of the show, we haven't actually recorded in a month, so this is I'm surprised that we haven't already gone for 3 hours, just because we actually did just chit chat.
We
for
did.
Almost
you just
40
didn't
minutes.
Hear any of it. Yeah.
But I want more buttons. I think it's time to add at least 2 buttons. I think that you could add 2 face buttons and no one would blink an eye, but I think it is time. I think that a lot of games are really butting up against we're really having to repurpose a lot of this stuff for multiple things that isn't actually doesn't really work all that well. And I'm ready, dude, I love that Xbox Elite controller. Holy crap.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
You said that has a couple extra buttons on it?
It's got 4. It's got 4 programmable paddles on the back.
Nice.
And they're a little bit weird because the way that my hands rest, I kind of feel inclined to press them. But I've gotten used to holding the controller in such a way where I'm not. And like I said, I've only mapped 2 of them so far, but I've basically, because I hate clicking the sticks to use them as buttons. So I've taken that functionality, moved them to those paddles. Dude. Yeah. I love it.
Nice.
That's
nice.
really what I was asking for. But you get a lot of games where they're using the D-pad for a bunch of stuff, and you're having to hold down buttons as modifiers, and it's games like Dragon Age or Diablo 3.
Right. Your hotkeys.
Let's just map extra stuff to there before you have to do those modifiers.
That's stuff I have to mod into games like Skyrim, where you need hotkeys, because I don't like playing Skyrim on mouse and keyboard because I'm apparently a monster. I just don't like doing it. I like to play on my controller because that feels normal to me. Yeah. So I've downloaded mods to adjust the controls to be able to play it's supposed to be played and add the hotkeys so I like can put some modifier button on there. And you're right, it would be so much easier if I keep trying to find a mod that will let me use hotkeys on the keyboard but use the controller for everything else, and I so far can't find that thing, because I'm like, that's all I'm asking for, is just because there's so many, I need so many hotkeys for all these mods that I can't do because it won't let me use the keyboard and the controller at the same time. Somebody figured this out. It drives me insane. But yeah, like, I think that'd be cool. And that's like sort of, especially if you're going to do like crossplay, some of those PC games where like hotkeys are an important thing, like you're going to need that sort of thing. You're going to need like some extra buttons for that sort of stuff. So hopefully they do that. Maybe Xbox's controller will be based on that Elite controller. Maybe, probably not as, not as nice, right, but maybe like a more scaled down version of that setup a little bit, to where you have some extra buttons to play around with.
I think that in the box they could do the Elite controller, but just remove the swappable D-pad and sticks and maybe like make the rubber not as high quality. Oh, but that rubber's so high quality.
Yeah, I doubt that. I doubt they do that. I know they're not gonna. They don't want to put like a $200 controller in the box. They can't do that. But at
least just having those 4 paddle buttons on the back.
Yeah, just that's what I mean. I think that'd be a big improvement. I don't see Sony doing that. Like, I could see Xbox doing that for whatever reason. I just don't see Sony doing that.
Yeah, and that's going to be an issue, because it's going to be a thing where it's like, if one system has these extra buttons and the other one doesn't, those buttons aren't going to get used. And
yeah, I could definitely see that happening. So then you get into that category where like, well, is it even worth it to put them on there?
Right.
It's tough, but then again, I could see Xbox doing it and being like, fuck it, you can program these to whatever you want, play your way.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big thing for them, so why not? Like, that'd be a really cool thing, and I think people would get into it. So,
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people are assuming, but I just want to go ahead and say it. I want these systems to be 100% backwards compatible with this generation. Yeah.
It's a big assumption, and I don't see them not doing it. I mean, you almost have to now, because PlayStation got such a huge backlash when they were like, no, nothing's backwards compatible.
Right.
Like, you can't play those old games. You have to, have your PlayStation 3 or whatever. And Xbox was kind of like that at first, and then they kind of relented, and then they added it, and people were like, cool, awesome. Yeah. And now it was such a big hit that I know for sure, like, I don't see Xbox not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, because they learned this generation that that's a big deal, and I'm guessing Sony did too, because they're going to see that the other guys doing it, and they kind of have to go where the industry goes, I guess.
Right.
I mean, you would think, but I mean, nothing's set in stone. They might be like, fuck you.
Well, and I know,
keep your PlayStation 4.
So I know, like PlayStation, a lot of their issues comes from like the fact that the PlayStation 2 and 3 in particular used 2 very different and very wonky architectures for those machines, right? You had the what was it, the Emotion Engine in PlayStation 2 and the Cell processor in 3. So it's hard for them to like emulate that. I understand that.
Oh yeah, some of those games. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4, like a prime example. Like, man, that's going to be so tough. I doubt you'll ever maybe see that game again on anything other than on PlayStation 3.
Yeah,
I do get it.
Unless they do like a HD re-release of it, which that would probably take some work. But PlayStation 4 to 5, like that, to me, it's like the way that I understand it. Again, we're both laymen when it comes to this tech stuff, but like, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 are very like PC centric. So it seems like that stuff should be able to carry forward pretty well. So yeah, it's like, I'm not expecting like the next Xbox to play every 360 game and every Xbox original game and every Xbox One.
There's going to be some things that you're never going to see again.
But I do expect obviously all of the Xbox One stuff that was available to work, including whatever was backwards compatible on the One. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. It's like, especially because like they made a big deal of like, well, you can purchase all of these backwards compatible games on our store. It's like anything that I bought, I should still be able to carry over. I can do it, like Apple's been doing this for ages. I mean, eventually stuff gets aged out, but I can still download older games that I bought that are still active, even though I bought them like 2 phones ago. So Figure it out.
Right. Yeah, though I'm sure they will. I'm sure. I mean, I like you said, backwards compatibility. I think you have to do it. I think they'll do it. God, I hope they do. It's basically it.
Yeah. Well, anything else about next gen before we move on to the last little bit?
Let me look. I don't think so, though. I think we've covered everything.
I do want the prettiest graphics because I love pretty graphics. So.
Oh, I'm not saying I don't. No, yeah, I got nothing. We pretty much covered it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, last thing I wanted to hit before we get out of here is what are some of the games you're most looking forward to in 2020?
All right. Well, I've referred to the time of death, which is basically almost the entire month of March. But I have I think the one that comes out before, I think comes out in like January or February is, and God knows if you listen to this podcast, I love me some indie games, and I've talked about this one, 12 Minutes is that little, it's a game. I can't remember. Annapurna's putting it out.
Overhead one where it's in the room.
You're in kind of like this apartment, and there's a time loop thing. You keep redoing the same moment to try to get it right or whatever. It's kind of like a Groundhog Day thing. That game looks so cool. I'm so into that. That is, I can't wait to play that game. It sounds like such a neat concept. And then I have my obvious ones like Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love me some Final Fantasy VII. Those trailers, every time they come out, I'm just like... I didn't
get a chance to ask you, but did you get a chance to watch that live action commercial that I told you about, the Japanese one?
Oh, I forgot all about it. No, I haven't got a chance to yet. I should. I have... not having a chance to do it is a wrong turn of phrase there.
You've got
I've had
time
plenty
to do
of chances.
everything.
I just forgot it. Yeah, I just forgot to do it. That's my mind when I wake up is just like, you know what I'm gonna do? Play The Sims 4 for hours. I don't know why. That's the exact mental state I've been in as of late, and it's bad. It's real bad. Another one I'm looking for. I'm curious. This one I'm curious about. I'm not 100% sure on this one if I'm even going to play it, but I'm curious to see how it comes out. I'm curious about Vampire the Masquerade.
As am I. That one I'm highly looking forward to simply because, like we had said before, I know that the last game is real janky and broken, but everyone that I've heard talk about that game, once they got it to work, it just sounds really cool, and especially after playing the Outer Worlds, I might really be into that game.
Right. It has a lot, certain things I've heard about it are super interesting, and when people go into the nitty gritty about it, you have to hear from the experts on that game. I've played this game X amount of times. I know exactly how these things go down and how these systems work. Those are the people that I'm wow, man, that sounds super interesting. There's not a lot of that innovated a lot of stuff. I'm super interested in that game. I don't know if the new one's going to be any good or not. It might be come out and just be kind of dog shit. I don't know. Yeah. I'm super curious about it though. And it might be one of those games where I'm no, this game's scary, man. I ain't playing that.
Well, and they, again, they delayed that by almost a full year. So, you know, and I think the footage that I saw from E3 this year looked rough, but at the same time, I was I can see what they're going for here, and this sounds cool. So I'm glad that they're doing that. Really, all I want to do is create and roleplay as Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That is my goal with Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
God knows I will make the same character I always make and play it the same way I do every RPG, but I'll have fun doing it. I always do. But let's see, what's another one I'm looking forward to? Oh, this one's kind of interesting, and I know I don't think a lot of people are too interested in this game, but I'm super curious if this is going to be good or not. Watch Dogs Legion is a game that's really intriguing to me. Seeing that demo at E3 was really cool. I was that looks awesome. That looks like a game I'm going to have fun with. I'm not going to say it's going to melt the world or anything, but it looks like a super fun game.
That's another one that almost seemed just like Ghost of Tsushima, where it's is this actually coming out for this system? Because, not that graphically it was mind blowing, but just what they're doing with it just seems out of the depth of current console tech.
Right. Exactly. And I'm curious, how that game's going to come out. I'm curious, it might be one of those things where you actually get your hands on it and it's like, oh, I see what they were going for, but it doesn't quite live up to it.
Or you see very easily how they faked it all, and it's like, oh, this actually isn't doing what I thought it was.
Exactly. Like, it could be one of those games. Yeah. But that being said, I do want to play it. I am intrigued by it. They've sold me a copy of that game for sure. Then the other one, let's see here. And then the obvious, no, not the obvious. We'll save the obvious one. Yakuza. I really want to play Yakuza, the new one. Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Like I said, I wrote down a list of the games that I'm paying full price for, and Yakuza Like a Dragon is on that list because I've become a big fan of the series, but also I really love the idea of them going into a turn-based, like, traditional role-play. I mean, it is a role-playing game, but now it's going to full turn-based combat. And
right. I'm super intrigued if they can pull it off, and it's a really cool concept. I'm
here's what I'm hoping, because, you know, there in one of the games that I played, I think it was Kiwami 2, you actually go buy like a basically Dragon Quest game for this kid. It just came out. But it's not Dragon Quest because for reasons, right? But they say Dragon Quest by name in the trailer for this game. And I'm so hoping that Sega made a deal with Square Enix, and there's actually going to be like a lot of Dragon Quest stuff in there, including
that'd be cool.
Dressing the main character as like the hero from Dragon Quest 8 or something like that, or like wearing a slime helmet, or heck, even having like a dream sequence where you get knocked out and then you're playing actual Dragon Quest for just a split second. Yeah. I don't know. Like that series is so cool. Crazy and zany, and I'm all for it.
They could do it. They could do it and it would work. Like it's so that series goes off the rails in so many fantastic ways and departs in a lot of some of their mini games, like their main headlining mini games in those series are so far off from a Yakuza game. Like Yakuza 6 had this entire you plant guys down and like they go and attack like your other. It was almost like a weird strategy thing. It was so different and off the beaten path of what the actual game was, because you didn't really press buttons. You just deployed units and told them where to go. Yeah. It was neat. Like, it was kind of fun.
Kiwami 2 had a peeing mini game.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But that one was with the New Japan Pro Wrestling guys, the one I'm talking about. That made it awesome. Like, when I had like Tetsuya Naito in my army, that shit was fucking awesome. So stuff like that. Like, they could go so many routes with it. I would love if just like there's some guy who's just like full blown RPG spiky hair man just out of nowhere for no reason, like just shows up, starts giving things. Yeah, that'd be great. There's so many ways they can go.
What if you were able to recruit an amnesiac mute who like just like you know, like he's just there because like you actually, I don't think that your party members are actually like story characters. I think it's more like Dragon Quest 9 where you're just like basically grabbing people and then they're in your party. So I think that there's a lot of ways that they can play with that. I think only your main character is actually the story revolves around him. Everybody else is just like here to help fight with you.
I want somebody who, like, you have to wake them up out of bed, and you give the line, wake up sleepyhead, and just like every RPG ever starts, you know, that'd be great. There's so many different cool things that they do, and I hope they do all of them. It'd be great. And if it's a Yakuza game, they might actually do all of them, so you never know. And then big elephant in the room, Cyberpunk 2077. I'm fucking hyped for that game.
Yes.
Like, I can't wait for Cyberpunk. Like, oh man. I've been into the concept of that game since like the very first trailer. Like when they showed like the robot girl getting shot or whatever, I was like, I don't know what this is, but it looks cool and I like that developer, so I'm in. Like, whatever it is. And then like the more I heard about like what they were doing from like the guy who like invented Cyberpunk, I think that was a long time ago when they interviewed him, and like he was talking about what they were doing in the game, and I was like, oh man, this thing sounds rad. And then they showed it off, and I was like, yep, I am very much still into this. This is awesome. Yeah. Like every little bit they give me, I'm very in. So yeah, I can't wait for that game. It looks awesome.
It does. I have a couple worries. One is that, you know, obviously I came to Witcher 3 very late, but that was probably to my benefit because I know the game didn't run all that great or control all that great when it first came out. And so they did a lot of fixes on that. And so I'm worried that like maybe with me jumping in on Cyberpunk, like from the get-go, like, maybe it might not be the experience that it eventually ends up being, like, within like 6 months or a year. And then also, I know, like, I was kind of bummed that it's first person, but I hope that they do like the Deus Ex thing where it pulls out to third person for cutscenes and for certain like moves and stuff like that. Because if you can create your character, I want to see my character at as much as I can. Like, like I had complained on the Outer Worlds that like I wanted to make just this grotesque character and I couldn't, but then it didn't matter because you literally never see your character. Like, so. From what I'm to understand, there's like vehicles and stuff, and it definitely pulls back into third person because that's the best. That's the only video game way to drive a vehicle is in third person. Fight me. No, you're right, and you should say it.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Thanks. I'm glad somebody has my back on that. I don't think anybody disagrees with me. But you never know. There's probably some weird guy out there. No, bumper cam. No, you're wrong. You were crazy.
No, I mean the big Gran Turismo heads are just all about like, I just want to be on the bumper in the front, and it's like, but that's so boring. You're just looking at asphalt.
I want to look at the back of my car and have the taillights light up and to see the stuff, see the reflections and stuff. That's the pretty stuff. But yeah, apparently it pulls out into that view and you can see your guy or gal or whatever. I can't. I'm excited, and I'm with you. I hope it does. The game I would say that does that exact thing the best is probably like Fallout 4. That game, when you go into like a dialogue thing, when it goes to your character, it switches to a view of them talking.
Yeah, and that's what I want.
So like, that's what I want too. I'm not 100% sure if they'll do it that way. I don't know, but that'd be cool. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping for. And yeah. I'm really looking forward to that game. Even if they don't do it, I'm still looking forward to it. All the builds and systems and stuff, that is some Justin Ham crack right there, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all I got. There's like a couple other games I'm like curious about, but I'm not like over the moon excited about. I know one that you're really excited about that I'm just like, I'm gonna play it, but I'm not 100% sure on is Doom Eternal.
Oh, dude, yeah, like. Yeah. My thing, because that was actually, I mean, that was the last big game I was looking forward to this year because it was supposed to be out, I think, in November. Oh, no, December, I think. And it didn't, it got delayed, which is fine. Before it was even announced, I was like, man, like, if they just make more of Doom 2016, that might not do it for me because, like, that was such a, like, that place and that time type of game for me. But then, like, again, I love the giant bomb coverage of E3. When Jeff Gerstmann just, like, lost his shit talking about Doom Eternal at E3 this year.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Because that man does not lose his shit easy. Right. And, he literally could not contain himself because he was under embargo until a very specific time.
Until the very end, yeah.
And
it was a great moment.
Yeah, like, he got me so excited for that game. I mean, the trailers got me excited because I was like, oh, just the one little thing of adding that grappling hook to the shotgun completely changes the way that game plays and moves. But then, I don't know, I'm very excited for that. Doom 2016 was my game of the year that year. Right. And it was also one of my favorite games of this generation. Spoilers to 2020 when we talk about those. Yeah. That's going to be on the list. But yeah,
that's gonna be a tough list for me. I'm not even sure. I'm gonna have to be looking up some stuff.
Oh, I will too. I'm gonna like start cycling through my libraries for both systems.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm gonna be like, oh man, we're gonna have to go through some shit here because I can't even remember.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you hit all of the ones on my list. Now that you mentioned Doom Eternal, I mean,
I think the only other couple I just remembered one. But RE3 Remake is a game that I'm personally I'm probably not going to play because it's a horror game, but I will watch that game and maybe even give them money just to support them to keep making them because I love watching them. That's what I did with RE2 Remake. I bought that game, played it for like 2 hours, did not feel buyer's remorse at all because I'd watched somebody play through it like 2 or 3 times. So, and I loved it. So
yeah, because I only have a list of 5 and man, that's one that I'm going to want to buy. I mean, maybe if I come in, like if I come into like, that'll be around the time of like, tax refund and stuff like that. So maybe, but, cause that looks really good. And then it was funny cause I'm watching the trailer and I'm like, they should remake Resident Evil 4 after this.
Right.
They definitely should. Like, Resident Evil 4 is still fantastic, but, because one thing is that it seems like they're making the story more cohesive across the games, and that's a very smart thing to do because the story of the original PlayStation games, all taken together, is bonkers and does not make sense.
Right.
So if they can like actually smooth that out and make it all fit, hey, that's a good thing to do.
I really liked the changes that they weren't subtle. They were very in-your-face changes to original Resident Evil 2.
But still true to the source content.
I was just going to say they were still true to it, and I felt were vast improvements over what used to be there. Like the stuff with the little girl.
Sherry Birkin, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that stuff was awesome and stuff like that. But anyway, and one I just remembered that isn't announced for 2020, but it's because it's a Nintendo exclusive. They don't announce shit until last minute. Bayonetta 3. Yeah. I got a feeling it has to come out this year, 2020, right? It has to.
Man.
Like, I thought for sure it was going to be this year, but man.
I don't know, because Platinum's working on like 2 other projects, and apparently they just showed that Square Enix one that they had announced like last E3. E3 2018, and they hadn't shown anything on it until just now.
But they said we got to show you more. They gotta do it. Come on, I want the Bayo. I like the Bayonetta.
It could, because we know Metroid Prime 4 isn't coming anytime soon.
Yeah.
I don't know. Nintendo is always such a wild card because they keep things so close to the vest.
Well, they did say at the end of one of them, and that's what I was like kind of whining about earlier there. If nobody could understand me, they did say at like the end of one that like, hey, we know you've been hoping for more news about Bayonetta, but we don't have anything to show you right now, but we will soon. And then they never said anything again after that. So I'm like, God damn it! They have like if they do that thing where they're like, and it's out right now, I'm like, oh shit, I'll be so happy.
But, they announced... Well, no, never mind. That's not a Nintendo thing. I was going to say that they announced that Vanquish and Bayonetta 1 HD pack.
That's on Xbox, right?
That's on everything.
Right.
But that's probably just... that's not... Nintendo's publishing Bayonetta 3, so those aren't related at all. I would like to go back, because like Final Fantasy 7 obviously is like one of the big ones for me. I've got like the deluxe version on pre-order. I think I'm actually going to be on vacation that day. I have a friend coming into town for my birthday, and she's going to be leaving like the day that the game comes out. And she was like, I'll be leaving early, so you can actually go to work that day. And I'm like, but that's when Remake comes out. So I can drop her off at the airport and then go to the Best Buy, pick up my game, and then just play it for 14 hours.
You got a good plan there, Julian. I like it. I'm into
because, obviously we both have serious reservations about this game. But at the same time, the more that I see about it, the more on board I am with what it actually is. And, because I am not like, it's semantics, but I'm not considering this an actual remake. I'm considering this almost like a Marvel what if. Like, what if all of this stuff happened in Midgar before they left? And it's almost like, to me, it's a very different thing. And it's almost like I have come to the mindset where it's like, if that's all that we get and there's never any more of that remade, I'm kind of already accepting that reality, because it's like, okay, this is just, what if we like really fleshed out Midgar the way we always wanted? And then you can fill in the blanks of what happens after Midgar because you've played Final Fantasy VII in the past. And if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII in the past, it's like $10. Or you can just like watch a Let's Play of it, whatever.
They have said they're working on the rest of it.
Yes, but again,
I'm just
they're taking 5% of the game and blowing it out into a 60-hour game.
I know, I'm 100% with you, man. I know, believe me, and I know it came out on Giant Bomb. They were trying to speculate where the game would end,
which is weird because like they already said where the game's going to end. Like they said it's all of Midgar, and then.
Well, they were going by the soundtrack. They were
Right.
trying to see if the soundtrack had any tracks, and I can confirm as a Final Fantasy VII expert, no, those are all Midgard.
Oh, yeah,
tracks.
yeah.
They were all. Those
But-
were all. I was like, I wanted to be there in the room with them. Like, no, those are all Midgard tracks. It doesn't leave Midgard. I
Well,
promise. At least not from what they're
I think
showing
mainly
us.
they just had forgotten that they had already announced at E3 that like the game was going to take place all in Midgar.
Yeah.
I
think that they've said like a lot of things that like you think you know about Midgard, the original Midgard playthrough, like where boss fights happen and how they happen. Like, I think they said like you remember if you were to call like the way Midgar ends on the after the motorcycle ride, after the one boss, you would think it ends there, but no, we actually have changed that part and retconned it a little bit to make it different to where there's that's what things I keep hearing, and I'm like, oh, well, this sounds really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm into whatever you're doing, you know?
Yeah, so there's that. I think, the last couple, we mentioned it earlier, but like Ghost of Tsushima is one that, we haven't seen anything of it since that first reveal, but that first reveal was so impactful, and that one.
God, totally forgot about that one.
Yeah.
I guess because it hasn't been announced. I looked up stuff that was announced, and I was like, oh yeah, these are the games. But yeah, that game looks so good, and I really hope it comes out.
And then I'm not a huge Naughty Dog fan, but I am curious about playing Last of Us 2, but that is not one that's on that list of full price games. That is one that I will wait for a sale and pick up, because I just don't like the way Naughty Dog games feel. And then I've got a lot of well documented issues with the thematics of gameplay in Last of Us based on the world that I'm presented with. I straight up don't think that game should have the number of guns that it does. I think that like you should almost be completely melee, and when you find someone with a gun, it should be like, oh shit, he's got a gun. Just because of the way the world is. Like, I don't know.
Right. I don't know either. I'll tell you this right now. I probably won't end up playing it.
Well, it's scary, and
it's exactly. But I will watch it. I'll watch somebody play through it. I guarantee that's how I'm gonna.
I want to see what happens.
Maybe
to Ellie.
I'll be into it.
Like, that's the thing.
Exactly. And that's also another thing. God, I wish they wouldn't have made another one of those.
Well, no, yes, that game is like BioShock. It
that
didn't
game
need a sequel.
ended so perfectly. I was like, I remember when that game ended, and I remember that it happening and me being like, if they ever make another one of these, I'll be pissed. And then sure enough, they made another one.
And there's another there's something, and I might be wrong, but I don't think that I am. And there's been a lot of talk, like, obviously I'm not part of this community, but I've been a lot more mindful of it. And there's been a lot of talk lately in the LGBT community of people introducing LGBT characters and then just using them as like an emotional hook, as far as like, oh, we're just going to like abuse this character or kill this charter. And it sure does look like they just like introduce Ellie's girlfriend to kill her and have that be her reason for revenge. And it's like, that's gonna backfire huge if that's what they did. I really hope that's not the case, because I'm gonna be very angry if that's the case.
Yeah, man, that's why I play things like Sayonara Wild Hearts, which is like super gay friendly and is awesome, and people should play it. It's the last time I'll plug it on this show.
I'm sure it'll come up for Game of the Year.
Oh, it's gonna come up for Game of the Year, Julian.
It's on my list of stuff to play during the hiatus. I bought it actually a while ago, but I've only played a couple levels of it.
Julian, it's an hour-long game, hour and a half.
No, I understand, and
sit your ass down, play that game. I'm kidding.
Not going to talk about it until then, because you might not like what I have to say.
That's fine.
But the last thing, and this is more of just like, I am going to be saving a lot of money next year, but one, I need to like spend less money. But two, I'm buying one of those consoles next year. I've already decided. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to whatever like launch game I get with my shiny new Xbox, because that's the one that I'm going with. Unless something happens during the course of 2020 where I'm like, oh, no, it's Sony. But like, I really do, with Game Pass, and because that's any first party Xbox game is going to be part of that thing that I'm already paying for. So that's huge.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, they're probably launching with Halo. So it's like, I would have no excuse to not play Halo. I'll already own it.
Yeah. it's probably going to be E3 before we know what the launch games are going to be. And and I'm curious to find out
because we have not officially seen like, hey, this is a next gen game running on next gen hardware yet. Normally by this point we would have seen something that was officially like, hey, this is not running on the current stuff, and we haven't seen anything like that.
The only thing that they showed that was next-gen hardware, I think, confirmed was the Halo Infinite. That was it.
Right. But that one is also on Xbox
and it wasn't
One,
like
so.
And it wasn't like mind-blowing or anything.
And it also wasn't gameplay, so.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that was the only one I can remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not excited about Halo games. I'm just not. It's like, that's a sad truth, but it's just not a series that excites me.
It's
anymore.
funny because I was actually thinking about that driving home from work today, because Halo is one of those weird games where I actually get into the multiplayer for a nice chunk of time when a new one comes out, and I actually have fun with them. Like, I usually get to the point where I'm not dying instantly as soon as I respawn, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually figuring this game out. Like, this is fun. But I just don't, like, I'm always on to the next thing, so I just can't take the time to get really good at it and continue with it. I'm just not that type of gamer. I never have been.
There was a point around Halo 2 where I was pretty solid at that multiplayer, but anymore, those skills only come back when I play, like, Borderlands or something, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember how to do this now.
I'll still never forget playing Borderlands 3 with you, and I thought that you were in trouble, and I got there, and everybody was dead. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, I think that's about it.
I think that's a podcast.
2 hours and 22 minutes. That doesn't sound right.
It seems like we've gone short today.
It does.
That's something.
This is a gift for Daft Man.
There you go. You're welcome, Daft Man. Happy birthday.
I forgot to mention, well, no, I think I did mention that, like, we had Ryan Scott on for this episode last year, and I that was awesome, and I asked him to be on this year. I didn't hear back from him. And so, of course, in my diseased mind, that means that he hated doing this podcast last year, and I should never ask people of that caliber to be on the show ever again, because that's how my brain works.
Right.
I know that that's madness, but I also can't stop myself from thinking that way. And the reason I'm saying that is because we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. This is our last main episode of the year. We do have our music special that'll come out sometime during hiatus, but for all intents and purposes, like, this is the last time we're recording something until probably the end of January. Because, like, one, it gives us time to, like, get caught up on games so that we can really make a good best of the year list, but also I don't have to edit for a while, and that's really nice, because it's a lot of work. And we might release, there's another little thing that I've kind of run by Justin that we might do, but that takes a little bit of work on my part before we get that going, so we'll see.
You never know. Who knows? I might do something crazy.
Okay.
I have an idea I'm going to run by Julian. It might be a total disaster, so we'll see.
But yeah, I just want to take this time to thank everybody who's stuck with the show and listened to it. I know we actually picked up a lot of new listeners this year through, I think, like, my advertisement on No One Can Know About This, and, just various places. I did, like, some, Twitter and Facebook ads this year, and we picked up some new people that way. Great Game Giveaway brought in some people. So thank you to everybody who stopped by to check out the show and are still here. Really appreciate it. All of you people who have been around forever, love you all.
Yeah, we ain't going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. I forgot the rest of the lyrics to Bad Boys for Life, but you get the
Oh, okay. No, you keep that on clickbait update, sir. But yeah, and to that point, like, we really appreciate your love and support. I would ask that, if you can support us a little more, like, that would be great. We only got 2 reviews in all of 2019, and we had, like, I think, like, 5 or 6 in 2018. So, like, definitely rate and review the show. It helps a ton, but also just tell your friends. Like, that is one of the best ways that you can help this show.
Travel door to door and show them the podcast, and tell your neighbors. Play it at loud volume so they must hear it, and then everybody will love you. And then and if you're just on the street, play it very loudly in your car, and then stop at red lights and don't move, and make everybody on the street hear our podcast.
And also make eye contact with each and every one of them.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Take your pants off and run through the streets, and then when people ask you what you're doing, say the Nerds Without Pants told you. Yes.
Right. Exactly.
All that stuff.
It's a cult. We're a cult.
We
now.
are. We have these lovely tracksuits and Kool-Aid for you.
Yes.
But no, yeah, really appreciate it. Also, definitely while you're at it, check out some of our friend shows. Like, I'm very big about like supporting smaller shows. So Hack Thought Podcast from Mike Fallick. Also his other show, Duo. Go check that out because Justin and I are actually going to be part of that project as well. That sounds like a lot of fun where we're going to be playing like basically like a D&D game with Mike a few times a year, and then he's going to cut those into episodes throughout the year. So check that out. Games My Mom Found is a friend of ours. No One Can Know About This. Square Roots Podcast. Check all those guys out. Let them know the Nerds Without Pants sent you. Oh, sorry. Also, Arcade Memories with Gabe and his other show, Interparty Conflict. Those are all ones that we have interacted with a lot this year and really appreciate and love. And we appreciate and love you as well. And also that clickbait update thing, maybe.
Fuck
They've got the hottest of takes, and sometimes those takes are a little too hot.
Too hot for me. But please go listen to the episode that I did all the milk facts for because I loved that episode. It was so much fun to do. Please listen to it. I loved it.
What was that stinger that you kept using?
That is from Sifil and Ollie. And I took out the word rock for milk, and I replaced myself saying milk in it.
Is that what you were saying? I thought you were just going no.
Milk. I had to do it really fast. Okay. It was milk. Okay. It was like milk. Because it would knock off the cadence of the song if I didn't. It was a tough edit, Julian. It was really hard.
I listened to it. I just wasn't quite sure what was going on. I was like, okay, he didn't do this live every time. This is like a one-take thing.
No, this was one take, yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that is going to do it for 2019 with Nerds Without Pants. It was a really good year for the podcast and a really good year for video games. Definitely let us know in the comments, like, anything that you wanted to chime in about this episode. Now, one thing I do want to do differently for our first episode of the year, which is going to be our Game of the Year episode, in the interest of making the show more interactive as we've been doing, keep an eye out on the Nerds Without Pants Twitter feed, and I'll probably make a blog post on Pixelbit, but we're going to want your top games that you played in 2019 as well, and we'll read those on the show in addition to ours. And again, they don't have to be games that came out in 2019, just games that you discovered in 2019. So there's probably a 2017 game on my list. I'm not sure yet. There's still a lot of stuff that I need to play. And like I said on the last episode, Death Stranding could end up on that list, which boggles my mind. I'm still not sure.
My top 4 are probably locked in at this point, but that fifth slot is super wide open for stuff like that. Yeah. It's a debate between like 3 or 4 games, the Death Stranding, or probably 3 games, like Death Stranding. I won't go into it, but we'll save it for then. But there's a big contested spot on my list right now, and it's that last spot.
Maybe we need.
Who knows? Maybe it'll move up.
Maybe we need to have him get into the cage and fight it out there for your number 5 spot.
I think we should take like the top 2 games of the year and maybe blog post it or something, and then have a cage match for the Game of the Year episode.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
I think so.
All right.
Like, maybe not even our top 2, but like the general consensus top games.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's actually okay.
And then we'll make the listeners figure it out which one's the best, right?
Yeah. All right.
For totally nonsense reasons. Anyway, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead. I think we're at 2.5 hours now. That seems like it. Yeah. There we go. All right. So we'll go ahead and get out of here. But thank you as always for listening. You can find us on Twitter, Justin.
I'm at Tyrone_Swift, or you can tweet my other bullshit podcast at Clickbait Update.
You can find me at Julian_Titus. You can find the show at NWPcast. You can find Patrick at Some Boss. I had talked to him just like a little bit ago, and I didn't get an answer, but I figure he's probably just wants to like take a sabbatical until we come back from hiatus, because there wasn't really a point in him coming back for like one episode and then being gone for weeks. So
Right.
we'll reach out to him for that. But you can bug him in the meantime. But until 2020, thanks for listening, and keep it pantsless, Internet. Goodbye.
Если ты захочешь обо мне сейчас узнать, я буду рядом с тобой. Может, слишком поздно, может, рано опоздать. Или...
But wait, don't go. Yeah, we just watched the Game Awards together.
Sure did.
And I commented that something happened, and I told Justin, God damn it, like, our podcast is already obsolete.
Yeah.
But then I realized that I had not started editing yet, and so we actually could just, like, record this little addendum that I feel is very important.
Right.
Because at this Game Awards, which, you know, I mean, the reason we watch it really is for, like, the game announcements, but there was something a little more than a game announced.
Yeah.
At this show. Justin, can you tell the listeners my exact reaction
Yeah,
to this?
So Julian and I's streams were a bit delayed, which was kind of funny. I was getting everything ahead of him, and there, right at the beginning of the Game Awards stream, there was this little like there was a little like commercial thing. It started out really like this isn't anything, and then all of a sudden, hey, it's the new Xbox. This is what it looks like. Hey, here's some gameplay from it in engine, and it's a game that Julian's super into, and that's Hellblade 2, and it looked pretty cool. And it was pretty funny because I had to keep my mouth shut when it came on because like I said, the streams were delayed because he was like, oh man, what is this? And I'm just like, he's like, this kind of looks like Death Stranding. I don't know what this is. And I'm like, oh, okay, just hold on. It was so weird. They did it like right at the beginning too.
Yeah, there was a huge volley. Yeah, Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
Which I didn't think that they could come up with a worse name than Xbox One X, and I was wrong.
Yeah, you stand corrected. Yeah, that is not a great name, is it?
No.
I don't.
It was bad enough having Xbox One S and X in the same generation.
Yeah.
Because just like pronunciation wise, like if you're on a phone with someone and you want to ask your dad to pick you up an Xbox One X and he hears an S, well, you're not going to be too happy,
right?
when you get that S at home,
right? And like, what's even weirder is like Series X or whatever. There was a point where I was like, maybe this is just Xbox One, but it's just a different like iteration or something. Like they updated it even more or something, or it's like maybe the discless version or something. I don't, When
they showed the Elite controller with it, I assumed, this is like some sort of like super expensive version of the X with an Elite controller in there, but also they changed the design for some strange reason.
Yeah.
I actually, now that I'm thinking about it more, like they might have a Wii U issue with this where people are going to be super confused as to if this is actually the new thing or not. Like, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not
100%. Yeah, the name's bad. It's not good. But
yeah,
man,
system looks
they're
weird
so
too.
Bad at naming. Why are they so bad at naming things? Like, I get Xbox One, that made sense for what they were trying to do at the time. And Xbox 360 was like, I get what they were going for and that was fine because, they didn't want to do the PlayStation thing and make it seem like they had only been out for so long. I understand, but man, they just seem to be getting worse at naming. What the fuck are they doing?
Yeah, I never liked the Xbox One as a name, and then when they added the S and the X, that was even worse. And then here we are.
They have such cool project names. all they have to do is go with something like that. It'd be awesome. Like if it would have been Xbox Scarlet or something, like that's a cool name.
Yeah.
Just go with it. Like go in on the Scarlet thing. Make it actually a Scarlet thing. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's not something everybody wants in their house, but I think it was cool.
That would actually be kind of slick if it was like a deep scarlet color or like had some scarlet highlights to it. Like, yeah.
Or maybe just offer like that edition, like that color scheme, and then have, your regular blacks and whites for you people that want, I need this to be black because it matches the aesthetic of my home.
Right.
All you interior decorators out there, I know you all listen to the Nerds Without Pants podcast.
So let's talk about the look of it, because it's funny because I was literally thinking today, I was like, I wonder if like what Microsoft ends up doing is that their system is super powerful, but it's also tiny. Like, I wonder if like a small form factor is going to be the thing for next generation. And it looks small, but it's also tall. And I was telling you as we were watching it, I don't know if I have room for that in my current like setup.
Right. It looks almost like a mini kind of PC tower.
Yeah.
Like kind of look to it, and which is neat. And even I'm kind of like, I don't know how I'd fit that in. Like I play a lot of Switch docked, but I can put it off to the side of my TV, so it's okay. Where this like seems like it's like the way I have things set up right now, like it might be a bit of an issue, but who knows, man? Maybe it'll be okay. I could probably fit it behind my TV. That'd probably be okay.
Yeah, because it's
thinking ahead of the curve.
Oh, actually, I just thought of something. That thing didn't look like you could load discs into it.
From what I'm to understand, if the rumors are true, there's supposed to be two separate versions. One that doesn't have a disc thing, and one that does.
Interesting.
But I'm not 100% on that. Don't quote me. We didn't get.
Oh wait, hold on.
Too many details.
Okay, I am currently looking at a picture now. There is a disc slot on it.
Okay, there you go.
Man, okay, so, and it looks like it's just like the system dimensions, looking at this picture, it's only slightly wider than the width of the Elite controller. So that's a tiny little system.
That's neat.
Yeah.
All right.
I dig it. Like I said, I think it's a little too tall for my current, like, setup, but it also looks like something you could very easily put on its side.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what it is. I'm sure that they just wanted to put it vertically to make it look different.
Maybe it's kind of the old like PlayStation 2 thing where you could kind of put it on its side, like the original PlayStation 2, how you could have that thing vertically or on its side.
Yeah, because you can do that. You can do that with the Xbox One X as well.
Yeah.
It's funny because, like, the Xbox One X, when it came out, I was really shocked at how small it was, considering how powerful it is. And this is even smaller. But again, like, just looking at it even now and knowing what it is, like, my brain is saying, like, oh, this is just another version of the Xbox One X. Yeah.
The Series X name is a little off-putting. Yeah. But
it also kind of puts things in place where it's like, was there going to be the Series Z, in like 2 years after that or something like that?
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
Series Y.
Yeah.
Series XYZ.
Yeah. And then, like you said, I think it was like Senua's Legacy, Hellblade 2 or something like Senua's Adventure?
Senua's Journey?
I think, something like that.
Yes.
But Phil Spencer said it was in-engine. I'm going to believe him because he tends to be a straight shooter on that stuff. And it's funny because we had just talked in the bulk of this episode about, the graphics aren't going to be that much better, like it's going to be little subtle things. And it was like, dude, that looked like next
really
gen.
Good. That looked good.
Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, like, had a little bit of that uncanny valley to it, just a little bit. Like, it still looked really good. But this, like, Senua's back. It's Melina Juergens playing the character again, and those facial animations.
Yeah, they looked real good.
Wow. And the lighting in that thing, and the rain coming down. I can't wait. Like, after we get up here, I'm gonna, like, turn on my TV and watch it. Like, hopefully there's a 4K version of the trailer that I can watch on my TV.
Yeah. The game is called Senua's Saga. Okay, by the way. Yes. I googled it real quick because I was like, I gotta know. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked real good. Definitely not a game I'm super into because that game triggers my anxiety something fierce because of the way the audio design is, and like, but man, that shit's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm the first to tell you, I've showed the original Hellblade to people like, you got to see this shit. The audio in this is awesome. But yeah, the game looks awesome. We don't 100% know anything other than that, and I'm guessing we'll learn more at like E3, but like but first look at it, man, looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
so.
I thought for sure that it would, like, I thought, okay, we'll probably get like the first, like, presentation in like March from both companies.
Yeah.
But I did not expect that at all. Like, I wanted you to actually describe it, but like, I was watching this thing and I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like that was literally what happened because wow.
Yeah, it was pretty funny to be on the other side of it and not be like, oh, Julian, I can't tell you anything right now because I gotta have your genuine reaction.
Yeah.
I think the only time, I think the best part of this, well, the part that's fresh in my mind right now is when the game of the year was announced and my genuine reaction just happened.
Yeah.
Julian was like, don't spoil it. I'm like, I can't help it. I'm sorry. That was legit. Like, holy, really?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Sekiro won, by the way.
Yes.
It'll be old hat at this point.
It will be,
yeah.
And it's funny because like we try to make a timeless podcast. This is the one podcast of the year that is like decidedly not timeless, and then it was like rendered super like
super dated.
Like before we even like published it, it's like, come on, man.
Well, it's almost a good thing we watched the Game Awards at the same time so we could correct it.
But yeah, I guess that's it. Like we'll wrap it up. I'm super excited. Like I said, in the bulk of the show, like I'm fairly certain that the system that I'm buying at the end of next year is going to be the Xbox, unless. Like, and I told Justin like during right after they announced or showed that presentation, I was like, unless like Sony says that Final Fantasy 16 is an exclusive to the PS5 and it's coming out like in 2021. Like I'm most likely getting the Xbox and then holding off on the PS5 for a year or two.
If I was a betting man, and I would guess Sony's gonna try to come out with Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or whatever they decide to call that game.
Yeah.
I would guess the sequel to Horizon is gonna be one of their launch titles, but
that would make things difficult for my choice.
Yeah. I imagine it's gonna be a big toss up between those things, and it's I know you love Hellblade and like you liked Horizon as well, so. Yeah. Me, I will just, I don't know. If it's me, I'll probably buy both of them.
Oh, I know I'm buying both of them, but there's going to be
at some
one
point I will own
that
both.
comes first because I know, I don't know. I expect these systems to be very expensive.
I expect it to be one of those things where like I can only get one right now and I'll wait a little bit and try to make the choice according to which one I want the most.
Yeah.
So
when I go grocery shopping, I take out an extra $20 and then I take that and I put it in a little jar at home. There's $220 in there now. So by holiday 2020, there should be enough for an Xbox Series X.
There you go. I like your plan.
Yeah.
I like your plan.
All right.
I don't have any such plan.
All right, folks, that will do it for this episode. Thanks for hanging in there for a few extra minutes.
Yeah.
But hopefully you enjoyed it. And that's it. We'll talk to you later. See you in 2020. Bye.
Goodbye.
This actually looks like Death Stranding.
As you began on this
looks like
adventure of dreams, fulfill all your wishes. But now let's let's have a surprise.
I don't think it's anything.
I hope they're not using voiceover from Werner von Braun.
I don't know who they're using voiceover from, but
and then
Nazi piece of shit.
More and more adventurous.
Oh no, this no. Okay, what?
You would make further and further out gaps.
What is this for?
You would dream.
I don't think that's what it is, Julian.
And finally,
I'm gonna let you give it a second. Yeah.
Wait, are they
there.
doing like a console review?
That's what it's looking like.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that's what it's looking like.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that's what it's looking like.
Holy fuck! That's a weird ass console.
Yeah, that's a thing, man.
No. Oh wait. No, that's not the. Wait.
Maybe.
What?
Okay, hold on. Let's. They're coming out. Let's give it a second. All right. There's
No, that's it. And it comes with an Elite controller. God damn it! I just bought one.
And now, he's the head of Xbox. Please welcome...
Xbox Series X is a terrible name! Hey, Ashley Birch. I love Phil Spencer.
He's great. I like him too. I always like how he's like his giant bomb stuff is always real good.
He tells it like it is. I really appreciate that.
Basically, he'll admit they fucked up and all this other stuff. I really like that.
Hold on, I gotta hear this stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Immersive, responsive, and surprising. Where you are at the center of your gaming experience. Next holiday, Xbox Series X will lead us into the future of console gaming. Our fastest, most powerful Xbox will set a new bar for performance, speed, compatibility. Developers around the globe are already hard at work building.
Our podcast is already obsolete, Justin.
I know.
We haven't even launched it yet.
Xbox Game Studios are developing the largest and most creatively diverse lineup of exclusive games in our history. Tonight, I'm proud to reveal a project early in development.
Oh, well, hot damn.
Incredible.
Ooh, finally gonna get to see the game.
Creative team who are no strangers to the Game Awards.
Series X. Yeah, that is a really fucking bad name, isn't it? That's really not good.
Yeah, because there's already an Xbox One X. You can't, like, that's too many X's,
Sounds
Phil.
very confusing.
Yes, because I thought that, for a second, I thought they were doing another version of the Xbox
That's
One.
exactly what that's why I said, hold on, they're coming out.
Ninja
let's
Theory.
make sure this is, yeah.
Because I was really bummed when they announced that, like, multiplayer game.
I think I see what this is, yeah.
Is this Hellblade 2?
It might be, Julian. Sure does look like it.
Dude, I will plot. Oh, it is!
Yeah.